Hello dear viewers, support me by subscribing to my channel and share my video if you like it, and also make sure you comment your thoughts. Now let's start the video. Harry had made his way up to his rooms. A subtle couple of spells on the front door later, and he went to the bedroom. He scanned for more bugs, as Coulson had called them, and found only one this time. It seemed like they were getting tired of losing their devices. Harry pulled up a chair and removed the offending bit of technology from on top of the light fixture. He walked back to the living room and put it down on the coffee table. He supposed he could clear the rest of the rooms as well, but felt the game he had been playing with his watchers was probably just frustrating them at this point. It would do him no good to spoil all their fun. He hoped he'd meet them sometime. It would be fun to find out how they had reacted. Too bad he had vanished most of the bugs he had found the first night. He walked to his bedroom and locked the door. He then cast a couple of security wards he had not needed in a while. That would turn the room he was currently in into a fortress of impenetrability. If they were scanning for his magic somehow, as he suspected they could, then they might decide to enter and question what was going on. He couldn't have them finding him while he was busy. Harry retrieved his trunk again and climbed down into it. It was a specially modified version he and Hermione had worked on for a whole year. It had its own self-contained and maintained dimensional pocket. Usually expanded trunks were just that, in that it took the current space available and extended it magically. Some even shrunk items to make the room in the trunk seem more. Harry's trunk, however, existed in its own pocket dimension. This allowed for other magically expanded items to be used in it without fear of the magics involved affecting each other. Hermione had called it the bag of holding and a bag of holding problem, effectively making the space he was currently in capable of having more such spaces inside of it. He even knew how to expand his personal pocket dimension himself. Hermione wouldn't let him use her rune schemes without understanding them, saying that one mistake could separate the pocket from the outside world and lock him in forever. He probably paid more attention to her in those days than ever before. He walked to the end of the room and opened a door, which was protected by a Fidelius charm. Beyond this door were all his treasures, research and resources. He couldn't not protect them. His paranoia had run too deep by the time he had set all this up. Through the door seemed to be what looked like a hallway, with doors on both ends. They were not spaced out, as conventional spacing issues were not a consideration in a dimension where he could, quite literally, make space. The first door on the left was his bedroom. It held a 4-poster bed, a bathroom with a large tub, a comfy couch and coffee table, and a small kitchenette with magically preserved items in a cupboard. Its most prominent feature was a large window which covered most of one wall that looked out on an illusion of the Hogwarts grounds, with the lake, the forest, and the castle prominently in the middle. He could set it to any scene he wanted, but he'd never had the heart to change it. Not after Hogwarts had fallen. It was so lifelike you could see the wind blowing in the grass, birds flying in the sky, creatures of all sorts could be seen moving in the forest, and every now and then the lake would ripple and you could see what looked like a large tentacle break the surface of the water. The curtain had been drawn over the scene for many years now, but Harry suspected he'd finally be able to look at it again. Now that there was hope. The first door on the right held his library. Any book he thought he might need was in there. When he had arrived at Hogwarts after its destruction, he had expanded his own library with as much as he could salvage. The next door on his left was his vegetable garden. It was one of the only sources of food he had had by the time he had been closing in on Riddle. The ceiling was enchanted to look like a mild summer day. The magically produced sunlight enough to allow the garden to flourish. It was a large plot of ground with many vegetables and fruit-bearing trees around the perimeter. If one looked, they'd see a couple of chickens walking around through the growth. They were allowed to walk around as they pleased and magically fed on a schedule, near where their nests were. The eggs they produced were magically removed and preserved. The unfertilized ones to his kitchen for him to eat. The fertilized ones would be returned as necessary to maintain the population. The next door on the right contained one of his magical greenhouses. Those needed upkeep, but he had fortunately remembered to supply all the rooms with a suspension matrix. He could basically stop time for the rooms once he left them. That would make things stop growing though, so he was loath to use it. In it were his more commonly used potions ingredients. He was glad the instructor at Aurora Academy had known how to fix his horrible potions education, though he doubted he'd ever be a master. Nutrient potions gave him everything his garden couldn't. The next door on his left was where he stored his dry goods. chicken feed and seeds for plants he needed that he had found, flour and grains. He even had some cuttings and stasis from rare plants that he hoped one day he could find a place. He had a potions lab and a magical artifacts room, where he stored and studied his more magical items. If any of them were lost, he'd not be able to replace them, not unless he could find out how they worked. He'd already studied some of them enough to duplicate their effects, to a degree, and so it went on. A miniature biodome of self-contained life with crops, tanks, and necessities he had scavenged during his travels. What he didn't know he needed, he learned about and added. He had thought at one point that he might have a chance to seed life again, that if he found any survivors, he could help support them and save his race. The most valuable commodity he had was his magic, and by the time his version of an arc was complete, he had had to start feeding magic into the trunk to support the life contained therein. Once every couple of days he'd feel a pull and realize that the magic running his little safe haven was running low, and he'd go and replenish it. He had at least put a fail-safe in place. Should he ever be unable to supply it with magic in time, all the rooms that required it would enter suspension to preserve what he has saved. There was even a room for all Hermione's research. He had stored it in its own room, boxes upon boxes of items, most of which he had no idea what they contained. But Hermione had made him swear to keep her research going one day, if she should fall. And she did. He had not been to that room in years, but thought he might find the time, now that Riddle was dead. He always kept his promises. Until then, he'd keep it in stasis as well, as it had been for many years. But now he was headed for his vault. He opened the door and walked into a room filled with gold and jewelry, precious gemstones, and rare and precious, non-magical artifacts. Portraits and art, things he thought were beautiful and new, were priceless. Magically restored paintings and items cut from pure jade. The treasure contained in his vault could buy a medium-sized country, he knew, but he just wanted to pick up some gold. Hopefully he could sell it somewhere for its value and weight. Harry filled a small pouch with galleons and pocketed it before closing the door and leaving his trunk. When he put the trunk away and left his room, he was surprised that no one was banging on his door. Maybe Coulson had them stand down. Whatever the reason, he was just glad he could go for a shower in peace. Once he was cleaned and dressed in a casual outfit of baggy jeans, with an emerald green button-up shirt he had once been told looks good on him, he exited and went down to the lobby, where he saw Natalie waiting for him. "I'm sorry I kept you. Am I late?" he asked. "No, you're just in time," she replied. He was actually early, but it would not do to tell her target that she had been waiting for him for 20 minutes already. "Shall we go?" Harry asked, indicating the front door with his offhand. "Let's," Natalie replied, preceding him out the door. "Follow me, I'm right behind you," he joked. She turned to him with an upturned eyebrow. "That doesn't make any sense. A good friend once told me that making sense only matters to those who want to think of themselves as normal, and normality is overrated. Almost anyone can do that," he replied. "Being yourself, however, that is a worthy goal." She considered this for a moment as they walked. At first it sounded like a strange statement, until she realized that it was actually sound advice. People who strive for mediocrity seldom reach their full potential. "Your friend sounds very wise," she finally responded. She was a strange one, but she had the best way of looking at the world. Very few people ever saw the wisdom in her words. She could make an innocuous statement, and only hours later would you realize what she had meant. That tended to alienate her from her peers. She had very few friends, but those of us who called her ours appreciated her greatly. Harry replied with a small sad smile. "I'm sorry," she said. "For what?" he asked, coming back to himself. "You speak of her like she isn't with us anymore," she stated. "She isn't," he replied solemnly, "but she would think mourning her as a disservice to her memory. She'd rather those of us that remained carry her in our memories and remember her as the eccentric, adventurous person she was." He smiled at this. "She'd probably tell me to spend their time talking to you about mythical creatures and government conspiracies, and she would probably be happy that Harry was befriending a seemingly lonely young lady who had jumped at the opportunity for good conversation. Government conspiracies. Was she into tabloids, and the strange and unusual? She asked with an upward quirk in the corner of her lips. "Like you have no idea." She once had this theory that there was a conspiracy to overthrow the government with gum disease. I never thought she was serious, But for all I know, it was a metaphor for taking the power from those in charge by infiltrating the highest offices and reducing the positions to ineffectual nuisances. She was strange like that. Harry shrugged. Sounds fun though. I can see why you liked her. The world can do with a few more unusual people in it, she said. They walked for half an hour chatting amiably until Harry spotted a store that he thought was exactly what he needed. It looked like a pawn shop, with the words "We buy gold" displayed in the front window. He walked into the shop followed by his companion. Immediately on entering, he got the feeling he was being watched. There was a certain tension in the air. There were 3 other men in the shop seemingly looking at various items, but their body language was off, like they were ready for anything. Slowing down and looking at an item on sale, he whispered to her, "Something is about to happen. Duck behind the display until I tell you to come out. Don't worry, I should be able to handle this." Natasha Romanoff, Black Widow, S.H.I.E.L.D. asset, had had a long life of intrigue and as such had also noted the strange behavior of the men standing around the small store. When her target gave her a quiet warning, she made the decision to act her part and observe. That was her mission after all. From what she had been told, her target was well trained, a possible threat or asset like herself. She'd use this opportunity to find out if those claims were true. She casually moved behind the display they were currently looking at, while Harry started browsing closer to one of the men who was furthest from his friends. One of them, having spotted the woman duck behind the display and the movement of the man, caught on and yelled to his friend, "Watch out!" But it was too late. As soon as the man started to turn, pulling a gun from inside his jacket, Harry was on him. Harry twisted his arm and he let go of the weapon. As it fell to the floor, Harry twisted the arm the other way, behind his back, and held the man in front of him between himself and the other 2 men who had also drawn weapons. "Let him go. You can't take us all," he screamed, shaking his weapon to indicate that Harry didn't have one. Harry smiled at him. "I think you'll find that your gun works best with the safety off." As he said this, he sent a bit of magic at both of their weapons, activating the safety and locking it in place. He saw the confusion on their faces as they tried to get the safeties disengaged. "What the hell?" one of them screamed. After a moment of struggling, he dropped the gun and pulled out a large knife. Harry, in the meanwhile, had not been idle. He punched the man he was holding in the back of the head and stunned him. Letting him drop to the ground, he stepped toward the man still looking at his gun in confusion. When he looked up and saw Harry approaching, he tried to use the pommel of his gun to hit Harry, but Harry intercepted it with a raised hand and grabbed the man by the throat with his other hand. As this was happening, the last of the men had approached the woman hiding behind the display and dragged her out, putting the knife to her throat. "Let him go, or I'll make the bitch smile from ear to ear." At this, he mimed pulling the knife just as he had described under her chin. "Okay," Harry said, stunning the man before letting go, casually stepping over his body while slowly approaching the man with his hands raised. As he did so, he applied a charm to the knife, usually used to prevent a person from cutting their fingers while preparing ingredients for potions. With a small flick of a finger, "That knife won't stop me from taking you out. But if you try to kill her, I'll have to respond in kind." As Harry said this, he never stopped moving towards the man, slowly, deliberately, like a predator on the prowl. "Stay where you are, man, I swear I'll kill her." The last man started moving towards the door, while circling away from Harry, feeling like prey, needing to run away. "If you let her go, we can end this without any further violence. The choice is yours." Harry's eyes flashed, completing the look of the predator about to strike, and the man, feeling the urgency to leave becoming several degrees more urgent, threw his hostage at him, turned on the spot and tried to make it to the door. Harry caught Natalie easily, picked up a bauble from a nearby table, and threw it at the man's head with a stunning spell on it. It hit the intended target, and the man fell to the floor unconscious. He looked down at the woman and asked, "Are you okay?" He lifted her head as if to inspect her for any damage, and smiled. "It seems we were lucky. You don't have a mark on you. It would be a shame to blemish your pretty face, Agent." Natasha froze for only a split second before pasting a confused look on her face, and asking, "Agent? I don't know what you are talking about. If you want to continue lying to me, you are welcome, but I'll have you know that I don't react well to dishonesty." Harry said this with none of his previous humor, as he took a step back from her. Natasha looked at him for a moment, and considered trying to maintain her cover, but when his eyes hardened, as she adopted a confused expression, she knew he wouldn't buy it. Suddenly her posture changed, as she removed the mantle of helpless victim and became the Black Widow again. Her face blank, she asked, "How did you figure it out?" "Your eyes. You are quite the actress, and had it not been for my experience I might have believed your act. But when that man put the knife against your throat you were looking at me, not it. You don't usually play the victim, or at least you don't like to have people see you as one. I knew a few people who would have acted the same way in this situation," Harry explained. At this time the teller came out from the back room. With a shaking voice she said, "I've called the cops. When those men came in I saw one of them had a gun, so I stayed in the back room. I was so worried they were talking about taking only the gold and didn't know I heard them. If it wasn't for you they might have killed me," she finished with tears in her eyes. "Don't worry, everything will be fine. They aren't going anywhere until the police arrive, I promise. In the meanwhile, how about you help me with the sale?" Harry asked. "Oh, you're English. I love your accent. Are you sure they won't wake up?" She gushed and then worried again.
"I'm sure. They are out cold.
Now, how about we forget all about this nasty business, and you tell me what you can give me for these?" Harry said with a charming smile as he withdrew the pouch and took out one of the coins. "Is this pure?" the young lady asked, as she took the coin to be weighed. "As far as I know, I don't know where my family got them, but they are useless to me in their current form." Harry lied easily. He knew that they were pure gold and wanted to avoid having to try and explain what the images and words on them meant. Fortunately, he had remembered to remove the protections on the coins. Pure gold is quite malleable after all, and without them the coins would deform quite quickly. While the flirty mid-20-year-old woman was helping Harry, Natasha was checking the assailants. All of them seemed to be out cold, and their heart rates seemed to indicate that they were simply unconscious. Hal was an entirely different matter. She had been watching carefully, and didn't know how he had stopped first their guns and then them. She had felt the knife drag against her throat, when the assailant threw her at Harry, probably hoping to keep him busy long enough to escape, but she wasn't even nicked. She had picked up the knife and tested it against her nail. It wasn't a razor, but it should still have killed her. She suspected that she knew now why she had been sent. Harry continued chatting amiably with the teller, and soon found that one of his coins was worth more than he expected. When he gave her the rest of the coins, her eyes bulged, but she went to work testing all of them, muttering about how it's a miracle they are still in such good condition. Most collectors keep coins in separate containers to keep them in mint condition. Harry didn't care what they looked like. He wanted spending money. He never liked relying on the kindness of others or feeling indebted to them. He was soon handed a wad of cash, which he put in the pouch and dropped into his pocket. As he went to go stand by the door, Natasha following him, the door slammed open and 4 armed police officers rushed in, weapons raised. "Get on the ground! Hands behind your heads!" one officer commanded. Harry took a step back and raised his arms, but said nothing. Natasha, however, looked at them with a calm expression and said, "The situation has already been handled. I'm going to reach into my handbag and show you my ID, okay?" The officer in charge looked dubious, but seeing the 3 men on the floor and that nobody was making any sudden movements, he nodded quickly. Natasha reached into her purse and extracted her S.H.I.E.L.D. badge, which she handed to the officer. He looked at it and frowned but allowed her to tell them what happened. An hour later, and what felt like 5,000 questions later, Coulson walked in the door. "I hear you've been busy," he stated as he looked at Harry. "It's like I told you. I just tend to find myself in these situations. It's a new record though. I've actually had 4 days without problems." Harry responded with a grin. Coulson just smiled his usual smile and placed a file in the officer's hands. "I'll take it from here," he said. "I'm not finished with him yet," the officer started. "Yes, you are. You were informed that he was with one of our agents, and that he acted in self-defense, and in the defense of an innocent bystander, which said bystander confirmed as I understand it. He's free to go. If you want to argue, speak to your commanding officer." "Now, wait just one," the officer started again. "No, we're leaving. If you need any further information from me or my people, call this number," he said, handing the belligerent officer a card and leading Harry and Natasha from the premises. "So am I supposed to go back to the hotel now?" Harry asked sadly. "Why would you think that?" Coulson returned. "Well, since I know she's one of yours," he pointed at Natasha, "I assume you guys are still babysitting me. Am I now classified as a threat?" Harry asked seriously. "I told you there were protocols to follow and that I couldn't tell you everything." One of them was to ensure my own safety. Natasha was sent in case I had been compromised. After my debriefing, and stating your case, you have been cleared. I have been told to warn you that our agents are off limits. At this he pointed at his head. We know that realistically we cannot compel you to comply with our demands, nor can we know when you are, shall we say, invading people's privacy, but it would help build trust. Coulson replied. Natasha? Harry said, looking at the redhead. Romanoff, she nodded. Do you use your real name when you go undercover? She asked sarcastically. Fair enough. Why aren't you wearing your sunglasses, Agent Coulson? Harry asked. Merely doing my part to show trust. That is our main objective at this point, right? Coulson asked. Put them on, it's bright out here, and just so you know, I dislike using that particular skill set and will likely never use it if I can help it. You should probably get your agency to set up a list of priorities when they will need me to do so, with many good reasons, since I will not be used as an interrogator. Harry stated honestly, that might be a problem. The director probably already plans for you to use your skills in that regard. I wasn't aware of your aversion to the skill, Coulson replied. Try having your privacy invaded every day for months by a man who hates your guts, who used to work for the other side, and who caused your parents' death, and tell me how willing you are to use the skill. Harry said angrily, Sorry, I never liked when the government thought to use me for those skills. Sorry I snapped at you, he apologized. I may have an alternative for you though. Harry bent over and picked up a leaf from the ground. He showed it to them, covered it with his other hand, and performed a switching spell. When he moved his hand away, the leaf had been replaced with a quarter-full dropper vial, with a clear liquid in it. Tada, he said with a flourish, giving the vial to Coulson. Natasha scoffed. Sleight of hand? Really? No, Natasha. Magic, he said with a smile. Sometimes the truth is the best lie. Coulson smirked, knowing what Harry had done. It was going to be fun seeing her reaction when she found out. If she found out, he supposed. What is this? Is her clearance high enough to hear what Fury did? Harry asked. She'll be among the first to know. Coulson replied. Okay then. What you have in your hand is the most potent truth serum known to man. Where I am from, nothing can even come close. 3 drops ingested orally and you cannot but tell the truth for an hour. Be careful with that stuff. Too many drops is lethal. I don't have much more, but I can make more. It takes a couple of days though, so make sure you prioritize its use correctly. That should make your boss smile, Harry said. I've never seen Fury smile, Natasha interjected, her face still blank. I have. Not quite the same since he lost the eye though. Coulson stated with a small smile of his own. He lost an eye? Harry asked. It was a couple of years back. He doesn't speak about it, Coulson said. Wow. So your paranoid spy master of a boss has one eye and lives up to his namesake? Harry asked, not being able to help but draw parallels. Pretty much, Coulson said. Why? The war vet I told you about was our spy catcher, who had one eye and a propensity to live up to his name, Harry said with humor. What was his name? Coulson asked. Moody, Harry said, not able to help but let out a laugh. But he had a replacement for his eye of sorts. It was always looking in all directions, not following his other eye, so he was nicknamed Mad Eye Moody. Natasha snorted, drawing her own parallels, but said nothing. They reached the car, and Coulson got in. See you tomorrow, Harry. With that he pulled away and drove off. Harry started walking back to the market he had spotted earlier, and was surprised when Natasha walked with him. Are you still on babysitting duty? He asked. You heard Coulson. You're in the clear, she replied. Then why are you going with me? He asked again. Are you saying you dropped your date just because her name changed? She asked, with big eyes, tears forming in them, which had him wanting to instantly apologize. He stopped himself just in time and looked at her with a smirk. You are dangerous, he said with delight. Come on then, you can tell me all about what it's like working for a super secret spy agency. She smiled back and started. Well, I would tell you. The next day, Harry was woken by a knock on the door. He had had a late night after returning to the hotel. He had done some shopping with Natasha keeping him company. Harry had found out some things that amazed him. Apparently he was in a world with superheroes and supervillains, supernatural beings and mutants. She couldn't be specific, but that was expected. He had also learned about some of the technology of this world. They were far more advanced than his previous world in some regards, He had looked into a cell phone and found that there were some that were hardened against interference. He had thought of purchasing one, but decided against it. Who would he call after all? He'd have to use runes on the device just so he could use it without there being a chance of it simply frying. The signal interference part might be nice, since cell phones tended to always sound like they had bad lines in his hands. Later, they had ended up going to an Italian restaurant. He had never had Italian cuisine and found that he liked the food immensely. He'd have to look into some of those recipes. He'd probably have to add more herbs and spices to his collection, but he was certain there was space for some of them in his herb garden. After dinner, they walked back to the hotel and Harry said goodbye to her at the door. He hoped he'd see her again. She was beautiful, good at carrying a conversation, smart with a dry wit, but he sensed that he'd need to know a lot more about her before she'd get close to being herself. And Harry could never be with someone he didn't truly know and trust, but he could take the time. When he got back to his rooms, he secured it and scanned the bedroom for devices. Nothing. Seems they had decided to stop trying. That was nice of them. He smiled and went to work after entering his trunk. He had a plan. When Harry reached the door the next morning, it was to find Coulson smiling at him. "Ready to go?" he asked, looking at Harry's disheveled appearance. Harry, knowing he was joking, just scowled at him and invited him in. Once Coulson was in, Harry excused himself to his room and quickly got ready. It was not a minute later and Harry exited his room, clean, refreshed, and dressed in a smart casual suit with a suitcase in hand. "Now I'm ready." Harry smiled at him. "Looking good, Harry," Coulson asked. "Should I even ask how?" he asked. "Not in this room, you shouldn't," Harry said, looking around the room, indicating he knew about the bugs. "You didn't check, did you?" Coulson asked. "The bugs were removed before you came back last night. Apparently you're being given the benefit of the doubt until your meeting with Fury," he said. Harry scanned around the room and found that the devices were all gone. I've only been checking my room since I can't sleep when I can sense I'm being observed." Harry shrugged. "We were wondering about that," Coulson said. "Useful skill too." "Necessary skill. There were a couple of pranksters at school who'd wait for you to go to sleep before pranking you. You'd wake up with feathers instead of hair, or the wrong gender, depending on what they were working on that week. I learned fast to know when they might strike, and that skill only developed over time." Harry explained. "Okay, that's scary. Those were considered pranks?" Coulson asked, amazed. "Sure, we had a school nurse that could fix pretty much anything, from dragonpox to splinching your head right off," Harry replied. "Dragonpox, splinching?" Coulson asked. "Magical disease. Don't worry, I don't carry any pathogens. I'm somewhat immune to disease. As for splinching, it's what happens when something goes wrong while apparating," Harry said. "Apparating?" Coulson asked again. Every time Harry answered a question, more just came up. "We apparated to New York," Harry replied with a shrug. "That was a possibility. Can you fix splinching?" he asked Harry worriedly. "I could, but you don't need to worry about that. I've never splinched anyone. The more power you possess, the safer it becomes, and I was probably one of the strongest wizards in my world," Harry said. "I'm not bragging, honest. I actually wished more times than I can tell you that I was just a normal kid. It is likely because of my power that the bad guys kept coming after me. By my mid-20s, I was considered the strongest wizard alive besides the bastard that ended it all." This struck a chord with Coulson. "Harry, how old are you now?" he asked. "I'll be turning 32 at the end of July." "Why?" Harry asked. "You don't look like you can be older than 24. Is that normal?" Coulson asked. "Wizards age more slowly than normal people," Harry answered, not really wanting to think about the fact that he stopped aging at 25. Thanks to the magic, though, he looked younger than he had actually been when that happened. "That's a perk if I ever heard one," Coulson replied, noticing a look he couldn't identify. "Well, it's almost time we leave. Do you have everything you need?" "Actually, I need to know what's about to happen. I had an idea about how we can secure our secrets between the director and me, but I can't do that if we're being watched," Harry said. He then went about explaining his plan, taking items out of his suitcase as he explained. Coulson was astounded. This could change so many things. The director was no fool. He'd see the benefits immediately. "That's amazing," Coulson said, not able to hide his childlike wonder at the information he was given. He couldn't wait to see Fury's reaction. Half an hour later, Harry and Coulson walked into a warehouse. They had first stopped at another location for some photos to be taken, but Harry couldn't get Coulson to explain why. He just told Harry it was necessary, and smiled a mysterious smile. Harry knew there were people watching over the warehouse, but he was assured that the inside was clean. He'd check for himself, but he'd wait until he'd met the director. In the middle of the small, well-lit warehouse stood a tall black man with an eye patch standing behind a small round table with 3 chairs around it. Harry was unsurprised to see him wearing sunglasses. They walked up to the table and Coulson introduced them. Director Fury, this is Harry Potter. Harry, this is Director Nick Fury. Pleasure to meet you, Harry said. Likewise, Agent Coulson here seems to think you're the best thing since sliced bread. I'm here to find out why and if we're in positions to help each other out. Fury said, with a disapproving tone to his voice. Don't blame Coulson. If things go well today, you'll probably see why, Harry said. Is that so? I was under the impression there are things I can't know. Agent Coulson made special arrangements using S.H.I.E.L.D. bylaws and protocols to ensure the safety of your secrets. Fury asked with a frown. Sir, if I may, Harry has explained to me what he intends to show you and I think you'll like the implications. He has a whole display worked out for you. Coulson said with an excited smile. You look way too happy about this, Agent, Fury said. Please, if I may, Harry said, holding up his briefcase. Fury nodded and sat down. Harry put the suitcase on the table and opened it. He took 2 folders out of the suitcase. They were green and yellow. What I have here is a way to secure information between us. I could explain it, but you'd probably prefer to see for yourself, Harry said. He slid the green one across the table to Fury and he opened it to see the first file. It was a simple page with only a couple of lines. Fury looked skeptically at it. What is this? The first page is a contract that states I cannot say your name aloud or I'll be pricked in the back of the left hand. Said prick is specified to not heal until the contract is destroyed. The contract is bound using my own special skills. Once I've signed it, it becomes active, which I will do right now as proof of concept. I will then break the contract by saying your name and the penalty will be applied while the contract turns red to indicate that it was broken, he explained. The second and third page is similar, but for you and Coulson not to say my name. Do you understand? Harry asked. I'm not sure I can believe that without proof, Fury said dubiously, sliding the file back to Harry. Harry took out a pen and signed the contract. He then held his left hand up, showing its back to Fury. Nick Fury, Harry said. Immediately a spot of blood appeared on the back of Harry's hand and the contract turned red, indicating it had been broken. He then held his hand out to Fury to inspect. Fury, being amazed but slightly weary, took his hand and then produced a handkerchief from his pocket. He wiped at the blood and inspected the small wound. It kept bleeding. Harry explained, this contract now holds power over me. If I don't destroy it, my hand will always have that prick. Since that's what the contract states, I didn't specify anything about repeat offenses, so the contract is still active. But with the penalty clause in effect, I can now say your name without fear of further penalties, since there are none specified. Harry slipped the next page to Coulson, who had already agreed to this. He signed the contract forbidding him from saying Harry's name and waited. Well? Fury asked. Sir, may I go outside? Once Harry's display is complete, you'll understand, but you need confirmation that he doesn't need to hear me saying your name for the penalty to apply. And that it's the contract's power at work and not him using other means to achieve his goal, Coulson explained. Let's sync our time first. I'll watch the contract. They synchronized their watches and Coulson left the room. They waited. Coulson is probably just waiting to increase the drama, Harry said, a little nervously. No, there's protocol for time-related instances that you shouldn't be aware of. He should wait for a minimum time set in the protocol. I won't tell you either. As they waited, Harry scanned the warehouse for any devices, and found nothing. Fury wasn't even looking at the page, making sure Harry didn't know when it was supposed to go off. A couple of minutes later, the contract went red and Coulson came in, holding a handkerchief to his own bleeding hand. Harry had not bothered to destroy his contract yet. It would serve as further proof of his claim. His own hand was still bleeding slowly into a cotton ball he had produced from nowhere. You didn't say that it would feel like something is still in there, Coulson said, showing his hand to the director. Can we destroy that contract? It still hurts. Pansy, Harry said, smiling at Coulson. He picked up Coulson's contract and ripped it in two. Thanks, Coulson said in relief. He and Fury compared times and confirmed they were the same. Harry slid Fury's contract to him. You'll note yours states that you will be pinched. I didn't think injuring you would be appreciated. And you didn't think of that for me? Coulson said with mild annoyance. No, I have a different plan for your wound, Harry said, mysteriously. Coulson caught on and said, Really? That's useful. Harry just smiled. Fury looked between them, and then the contract. He was beginning to see what this skill could mean for them, but played along for now. He signed the contract, and walked out the door without a word. 2 seconds later, his contract turned red and he came back in. Coulson noted the time as Fury had done. He walked up to the table, grabbed his contract and tore it in two. He didn't show any signs of pain, but then he wouldn't. Okay, you've got my undivided attention, Fury said, sitting down and waiting for Harry to continue. Harry smiled and slid the yellow folder over to Fury, who immediately opened it and read it through. It was a contract stating that any information given today that they do not wish shared and that they had not already known was not allowed to be recorded or shared in any form outside of the people in the room. The penalty clause was losing the memories themselves. Fury glared at him, knowing exactly what that meant. He could finally find out Harry's secrets, but he would not be able to pass the information on. At least it meant he could discuss it with Coulson. He passed the file to Coulson, since all their names were on the contract. Coulson read through it. Once through, he picked up the pen and signed it. What are you doing, Coulson? Fury asked incredulously. What do you mean, sir? This protects all of us and sticks with what you approved already. Coulson shrugged. Fury looked at the contract and saw the wording for what it was. Harry could not share anything they didn't want either. He looked up at Harry and sighed. He picked up the pen and signed it as well. Once done, he put the contract in front of Harry and held the pen out to him. Harry took it and signed without hesitation. Once signed, there was a flash, and suddenly there were 3 contracts on the table. He handed 2 of them to Coulson and Fury and left his on the table in front of him. Thank you, Director. Those are your copies. All 3 must be destroyed for the contract to be cancelled, as all 3 of us are the beneficiaries of the contract. As he said this, he touched his and it was replaced by another piece of paper. Okay, you need to start talking. What just happened? Where did these copies come from? How do you make contracts that are enforced instantly, and how can they erase memories? Fury exclaimed. One answer to all your questions, sir. He does magic, Coulson said. Magic? There's no such thing, only science we don't understand, Fury stated irrevocably. Coulson held his bleeding hand to Harry and said, Do you mind? Of course not. He held his hand palm down over the wound for a second, and then removed it. Underneath was clear skin with no blemishes. Thanks, Harry, Coulson said, rubbing the spot. It itches. New nerve endings. They do that. Harry replied simply. Fury grabbed Coulson's hand and inspected the spot he knew had a wound in earlier. Rather look at mine, Harry said, holding out his... He put his finger next to his own, still bleeding, wound and healed it. A second later, it just opened up again. Why do you think my wound won't close, Director Fury? Don't patronize me. Fury pointed at Harry's first contract. Exactly. Harry picked up his first contract and had it burst into flame until it had entirely disintegrated. He then healed his wound, and, this time, it stayed closed. I did that on purpose, so you know there's no way out of the contract. If you feel that I have deceived you, you may leave now and have no ill effects, except for the fact that you can't talk about my having magic. Here he placed the paper that had replaced the secrecy contract in front of Fury. If, however, you want to stay, I have magical gifts for you after signing this contract, stating that any magic items you receive from me will become inert should our secrecy contract be broken. Since it's my magic in the contracts, it can destroy any magic items I have created. Gift? Fury asked. Does that mean you are staying? Harry returned. Fine, Fury said, signing, hopefully, the last magically binding contract for the day. He noted there was a place for Coulson to sign and passed it along with a frown. Coulson read through the document, noting that it was exactly what Harry had said, and signed it. He handed it to Harry, who held it in his hand for the moment. Why don't we get a copy of that one? He asked. That's because it's for my protection, not yours. If you had no memories of me or my magic, how could you explain having magic items? Harry questioned with a raised eyebrow. Fair enough, I suppose. What are these gifts? Coulson asked eagerly. Harry smiled, put the contract back on the table, and pointed a finger at it. It was replaced by a box. The switching spell is an amazingly useful spell, since his entire pocket dimension was with him at all times, and as long as he knew where an item was, he could have access to it with the simple act of replacing it with an item in his possession, a leaf or a vial, for example. Harry pushed the box over the table to Fury, and Coulson quickly got up to see as well. Fury opened the box and looked at Harry. Inside were 2 leather bags with drawstrings, an eye patch, and 2 needles. "What am I looking at, Potter?" Fury asked. "Why spoil the surprise?" Harry asked. "Put the eye patch on, you paranoid skeptic." Harry lifted his right hand and said, "I swear on my life and magic that the items I gave you will not harm you." There was a flash of magic and Harry lowered his hand. "What was that?" Coulson asked. "Magically binding oath. Normal people cannot do those, so contracts are needed. If I was lying, I'd be dead." Harry said this matter-of-factly. "That's what you meant about your oath of service being more binding?" Coulson exclaimed. "Yup," Harry responded. Fury looked between Coulson and Harry and the box. He then reached in and pulled out the eye patch. He looked at Harry again skeptically and stood up. Turning his back on them, he removed his current eye patch and placed the other one on his head, then waited. "Is something supposed to happen?" he finally asked. "Give it a moment. It's a delicate enchantment. It needs time to do the work," Harry replied, rolling his eyes. A minute later there was a gasp from Fury, and he turned his head left and right before turning back to Harry and Coulson. The new eye patch did not fit as well as the old one had, but the look of amazement in Fury's eye brought a smile to Harry's face. "How is this possible?" Fury asked. "Magic," Harry replied. "What's going on?" "Harry, what did you do?" Coulson asked. "He gave me back my depth perception," Fury said, still amazed at seeing in a way he had so missed. "What? You can do that? That's unbelievable," Coulson exclaimed, happy beyond belief for his old friend. "Well, I'm a believer," Fury said. "Thank you, Harry. I will treasure this gift for as long as I have it." "No problem, Director. Play your cards right and I might one day consider giving it X-ray vision," Harry said with a straight face. "Really?" both Coulson and Fury said at the same time. "It's not as fun as it sounds. It doesn't see through only clothing. It sees through everything. It's like a living X-ray machine. All you see are bones, innards, and the outlines of people. Useful to see if people are carrying guns and stuff though," Harry replied wryly. "Would still be useful. Imagine doctors had that, firefighters, airport security even," Coulson said. "Well, it is considered a medical charm. Enchanting it takes a bit longer than just casting it though," Harry replied. "Do you want me to make it look like your old one?" Harry asked. "How long would you need it back?" Fury asked slightly apprehensively. "He'd only just got his sight back. Can you blame him?" "Not at all. Just hand me your old one," Harry said, holding his hand out. Fury handed the old patch over and looked while Harry examined it. He didn't even notice when the one he was wearing shifted to fit like the old one. Harry transfigured the old one into a hand mirror and handed it to Fury. Fury looked at the mirror, then Harry, and then back to the mirror. He held it up and looked at himself for the first time. "It's pink," he said incredulously, shooting a look at Coulson, who seemed to be valiantly trying to stop from laughing. He succeeded, barely. Harry had let out a laugh himself and just pointed to the mirror. Fury looked at himself again and found that the pink had been replaced by the original black again. "That wasn't funny," he said at Coulson. Coulson had gained control and just smiled his normal smile. "Of course not, sir. Sorry about that. You were getting way too serious for me. Also, you forgot the other gifts," Harry encouraged them. Excitement bloomed on Coulson's face. He had forgotten in all the excitement that he was also receiving something. He turned to the box and pulled out one of the bags. He examined it and found nothing special. Not knowing what to look for, he stuck his hand in and found that it looked like a normal bag. Nothing inside either. "What am I looking at?" he parroted Fury's words from earlier accidentally. "Okay, what you do is, take a needle and prick your finger. Let your blood touch the bag and it bonds to you. Only you can retrieve what you put inside it." "What safer place to keep your contracts?" Harry asked with some excitement. He really did not want those contracts falling in the wrong hands. Coulson followed his instruction first, and Fury watched as Coulson's bag flashed a blood red. "In my old world, blood magic is taboo. almost considered dark magic, but I've come to realize it's what you use magic for that makes it good or bad, he said. Coulson looked at the document and the bag, then folded the contract up so it would fit the dimensions and dropped it in the bag. Holding it out to Fury to inspect, he confirmed that it was gone. Too bad it's so small, Coulson said, thinking of all the uses this might have. Too small, is it? Harry asked, mischief playing across his face. Take the contract out again for me. Coulson looked at Harry and shrugged. He put his hand in the bag only to frown. He then put his hand in deeper, his frown turning to wonder. Harry, how big is this bag on the inside? He asked. Big, was Harry's reply. He loved showing new people magic. Seeing the wonder and amazement never gets old. Coulson suddenly frowned, his arm in the bag all the way to the elbow now, still not touching the bottom. How do I get the contract then? Harry just smirked and said, think about what it looks like and it will be right at your fingertips. Coulson's expression changed to relief, as he apparently found the contract. He pulled it out and then promptly dropped it back in. No modern electronics though. Magic and technology don't mix, he warned. Thanks, Harry. This will really come in handy. I can't believe I own a bag of holding. Coulson said, his excitement renewed. Geek, Harry said, knowing the reference. Oh, and thanks for reminding me. Same rules apply. Don't put one of these bags in another. You will lose everything in them and the bag. Harry recalled. Fury in the meanwhile had taken and bonded his own bag to himself, rolled up the contract and dropped it in, retrieving it with a small smile on his face. I wish we could tell people about this. The uses for this alone. Wait until he decides to teleport you across the country or turns you invisible. Coulson scoffed. Fury's face went blank. You mean to tell me you can do that? And I can't use any of this information? You're a cruel man, Agent Potter. Agent? Both Coulson and Harry said in unison. Fury turned to Coulson and said, if you think for a second I'm not going to use him, then you need your head examined. He said out loud before thinking to himself, I wonder if he can help the team. Suddenly Harry had an idea and stood up. Now, since we've got this wonderful opportunity for secrecy and honesty, would you like to see where I lived the last couple of years? Harry asked with a sly smile. How would we do that, Harry? Did you find a way back? Coulson asked, hoping that Harry wasn't planning on leaving. He'd known him only for a short time, but he found that he liked him. No, I mean, never mind. Let me show you, Harry said. He removed his own bag from around his neck. He expanded it, put it on the ground and lifted it off his trunk. Can ours do that? Coulson asked with wide eyes. I'm afraid not. It's a bit like yours in that only I can access it, but besides that it can only contain one thing. He pointed at the trunk. You stayed in a chest? Fury asked, incredulous. No, don't be silly, Harry said with a roll of his eyes. I stayed in a trunk. Big difference. Harry smiled and opened the trunk. Putting his foot into the top, he started climbing down. Just before his head disappeared, he said, Are you coming? Coulson looked at Fury and took the lead while Fury just stared. He reached the ladder, looked down and then tried to move the trunk. It didn't budge. Shrugging, he put his foot over the edge and started climbing in. It's like the bags, sir. Bigger on the inside. Fury just stared a couple more seconds, before shaking himself, and then followed them in. At the bottom, they stood in a cluttered room with an old bed on one side and an old chest of drawers with no drawers in it next to it. A torch was burning in the wall, the only source of light besides the light coming in from the outside. There were many items in the room, but nothing that impressed them so far. What are we supposed to see? Fury asked. Let me show you, Harry said. What do you see here? He pointed to the wall opposite the ladder. A wall, Fury and Coulson said. Good. Now I'm going to show you one of the greatest magic charms ever invented for keeping secrets. I'll need to whisper something in your ear. He walked up to Coulson and whispered, The wall across the ladder has a door. Coulson shook his head as if clearing it, and to his surprise, when he looked up there was a door. Yeah, I see it. What do you see, Coulson? Fury asked. The thing. There's a day. Why can't I say it? He asked Harry. Because it's not your secret to tell. Only I can reveal this secret, Harry said proudly. That doesn't make any sense. It's right there. How can he not see it? He asked Harry. Harry just twiddled his fingers. Right, magic. Just tell the director before he pulls a gun on me for not telling him. Harry whispered the secret to Fury. The same thing happened again as Fury's eyes focused on the door. That's not possible. Has that door been there the whole time? He asked Coulson. Yes, sir. I could see it the moment he told me there's a door. Coulson frowned. There's a door. Why can I say it now? Coulson asked. Because everybody here knows that secret. Harry replied. You mean there are more doors hidden in here? Fury asked. I'm afraid that's classified information, Harry said seriously. After all, the chest of drawers had drawers and tools that he might need to get quickly, which is why it was here. Haha, okay. What's through the door we can see? Fury asked, with some humor. Harry had been very honest with them since they signed the contracts, and he'd not stopped amazing them. He now understood Coulson's fervent support of Harry. If he had anything to do with it, and he did, there would soon be a wizard on his payroll. Welcome to the backup plan, Harry said as he opened the door to the well-lit hallway beyond. Harry had considered a name for his home. It was what he had called it in his head for so long he could call it nothing else. Wait a minute, I thought you can't put one bag in another. Wouldn't that apply to the trunk? Coulson realized. Technically, your bags are expanded spaces. Because their spaces are as big as they can go, adding more space to their inside would rupture them. This space, however, exists in its own self-sustained pocket dimension. When you entered the trunk, you technically left your dimension, Harry said, matter-of-factly. This is a different dimension? And you made this? Fury asked. To be fair, I had some help. One of my friends was a genius. She was often called the smartest witch of our age. She was also a wonderful friend. Harry trailed off, lost in thought for a moment. Fury then finally saw the look Coulson had described of a broken man. He was saddened for this man. He also suddenly realized he believed his story of being the last man of their world to survive. How could one man carry so much and still be standing? Fury's respect for him went up several degrees. Sorry for your loss, he said, not knowing what else to say. No, it's okay, Harry said as he shook away the memories. Just promise not to work me too hard. I've got a whole room over there filled with her research and projects that I promised her to continue. I'll see what I can do, Fury joked with a wry smile. Who knows, magical research might have some use to us in the future. Okay, first door on the left, here is my room. He opened up the door and showed them into the rather large room. Coulson saw the window and made a beeline for it. Before Harry knew it, he was looking at Hogwarts in all its splendor as Coulson threw it open. How the hell did you fit a castle in your trunk? Fury asked, walking up to the window. It's not real, came the whisper. Harry had frozen by the door. His eyes were locked on the scene before him. Never before had the image of his first home so affected him. He realized how beautiful that place really had been. He smiled ever so slightly. It might one day be so again. Coulson had heard his voice and was about to close the curtain. When Harry spoke up, "It is an illusion, it's the school where I learned magic, made my first friend. He was a half-giant. He loved dangerous creatures. Thought they were just misunderstood." Harry was walking closer to the window as he spoke. He once hatched a baby dragon in his hut. Couldn't understand why it was a bad idea. Not the smartest fellow. Couldn't keep a secret to save his life. But he had the biggest heart. They were staring out the window with him now. The idea of a dragon having mystified them both, but not wanting to interrupt Harry, who seemed to be having a moment. Suddenly, Fury exclaimed, "What the hell is that?" He pointed at the lake. Harry smiled. "That's the giant squid. All the kids were afraid of it, myself included. In one of my later years, though, I heard it rescued one of the first years that fell in the lake. Just picked him up and put him back in the boat. We should have known. If it was malicious, the merfolk would have killed it long ago." "Okay, now you have got to be kidding me? Giants, dragons, giant squids, mermaids? Seriously, what the hell kind of world do you come from?" Fury asked. "A wonderful, horrible, scary place. I still miss how it used to be." Harry had put his hand on the window, as if trying to reach through it. The cold of the glass somehow brought him back to reality. He wiped the tears from his eyes, and said, "Wow, thanks, Phil. Don't warn me or anything." He joked with mild sarcasm.
I'm sorry, Harry, I wasn't thinking.
"Actually, I thought you were going to amaze us with the view because the window is the biggest feature of this room," Coulson said. He made eye contact with Fury, who just nodded. He'd seen it too. Harry might need some time for if he was to be believed. He'd not even had time to mourn the fallen. In Fury's estimation, this man was fast gaining more respect from himself than he had given any other. "I was actually going to offer you some tea or coffee, but now I'm thinking a drink might be in order." I have some fire whiskey if you're interested. It's a treat. Harry walked to the kitchen, conjured 3 glasses, and took a bottle from a cupboard. He had several cases of the stuff. Might as well drink it. He poured himself a large one, and for his guests he poured a single. He was about to take a drink when Fury spoke up. To the fallen, may they lift us up as we carry them with us. To the fallen, was the solemn reply. Fury and Coulson both sipped a bit of the liquid. Coulson coughed, and a bellow of flame came forth. Fury's eyes bulged as what felt like fire went down his throat, followed by a warming tingle up his spine. He felt almost instantly relaxed. Coulson felt the same thing, but was astounded as Harry downed his half a glass and didn't even wince. He did smile in pleasure, though. Best thing about wizarding: alcohol. They got the whole drink your sorrows away thing right. Like a cheering charm, just more lasting. Cheering charm? Fury asked. There's pretty much a piece of magic for anything a witch or wizard ever dreamed up. Unfortunately, they never found a way for someone to cast a cheering charm on themselves. Some types of magic affect the mood. For other things they have potions. One of my parents' friends was a werewolf. He needed to take a potion every full moon so that he could maintain control over his mind when he became a monster. Harry replied. When Coulson and Fury exchanged a look, he asked, "What? Is that just the alcohol speaking? Or did you just say you can make a potion that would allow a person who becomes a monster to maintain control over his mind?" Fury asked very interestedly. Firstly, alcohol does not affect a wizard as much as it does normal people. What would kill you gets us tipsy. Why do you think I gave you so much less? Did you think I was just mean or something? He asked incredulously. Secondly, the wolfsbane potion was made for werewolves. It would have to be modified to work for something else, and that is one subject I am no master at. I'm assuming you have someone in mind? Harry questioned. Fury and Coulson finished their own drinks, having really enjoyed it, and followed Harry to the door as Fury replied, "We do. Let's put a pin in that for after the tour, though." "Fair enough," Harry said and closed the door behind them. "Through this door is my library." He opened the door and the lights came on. "I liberated most of this from my old school. It was destroyed during the war, but I was able to clear the rubble and found the library mostly intact. If you want to browse, you're welcome, but don't go in the cordoned-off section." "Why?" Coulson asked. "Some of the books in the restricted section can hurt you. Seriously. There's one book in there that sucks to your face and tries to suffocate you. Don't even know why. It's a book on magical plants. Is it just me, or does it sound like your world had a lot of dangers where they were completely unnecessary? People who want to raise dragons in huts, and books that suffocate you." "Where did you get that book anyway?" Coulson asked. "School library. It was in the restricted section though," Harry defended. "Yeah, and teenagers never break rules." Fury replied sarcastically. "I suppose you have a point. While no system is perfect, I nearly died every year, and most of those occasions were at the school. To be fair, I did have a madman after me since before I was born, but that's a story for another time." Next room. Harry had noted that they had decided to leave the books alone after seeing one of the books move towards them when they approached. The Monster Book of Monsters. He had just chuckled. Fury and Coulson were apprehensive, to say the least. That book was not even in the restricted section. Next, Harry showed them his garden. Once again they were impressed. Until it started raining. It was on a timer, but the sky had clouded over, the effect being that it got colder and there wasn't much to show after that anyway. A drying charm or 3 later, and Harry showed them through the greenhouse that was currently active. He explained some of the plants when Coulson turned out to know a thing or two about horticulture, explaining the process of gathering certain magical ingredients without permanently harming the plants. He next showed them the potions lab and the ingredients he had already prepared and put in stasis. Why every potions master didn't do that was beyond him. Maybe there was a reason, and he just didn't understand. But his potions all tended to work. When Fury expressed an interest in the calming draft, Harry gave him one, but warned him not to try and analyze it in a machine. Not unless he wanted to lose the machine. Potions contained magic after all. Next he showed them his magical artifacts room, explaining what some of the devices did, had Fury looking like a kid in a candy store, especially when Harry explained about the dark detectors. The faux glass and the secrecy sensor specifically. Unfortunately, Harry only had one of each, and couldn't part with them. Fury started making a list in his mind. When he had Harry on the payroll, he already had a couple of projects in mind for him, and since Harry wanted to figure out how they work anyway, it's win-win. You mean you actually fly on brooms? Why? Coulson was asking while Fury tried to get Harry's faux glass to show him the faces of his enemies. Because flying carpets were illegal in Europe, of course. Harry explained, knowing exactly how absurd broom flying would seem to the non-magical. You have flying carpets? Coulson asked with wonder again. Harry wondered if he had watched Aladdin a lot as a kid. Sure, you tell a guy you fly on a broom, he scoffs. But tell him a piece of floor covering can do the same and he thinks it's a wonderful idea. Harry joked. It's not the same thing and you know it. Coulson was obviously very offended that anyone could think badly of flying carpets. Harry didn't have the heart to tell the man that you need to be magical to work them. Yeah, I know what you mean. At least it can handle more passengers. I'll give you that. But they don't go near as fast. Harry stood up for his favorite form of transport. Then he came to one of his favorite item, the pensieve. He had found Dumbledore's old one at the base of the headmaster's tower. A little scratched up, but still working fine. This is one of my favorites. It's called a pensieve. You concentrate on a memory and withdraw it from your mind, and then you can go into the memory and experience it all over again. Really useful tool for law enforcement. That does sound useful, Fury said, as he walked up to them, having only been able to see shadowy figures in the faux glass. Can you show us an example? What do you want to see? Harry countered. How about a memory from school? Coulson asked. He wanted to see the school Harry missed so much. Too bad for him, Harry had already thought of the perfect memory to scare them for the window incident. I have the perfect memory for you. It happened at the end of my second year, so I was 12 at the time, he said. He concentrated for a moment and put his finger to his temple. When he withdrew it, there was a string of memory attached to his finger and he dropped it in the bowl. Okay, so what you do is put a finger in the bowl, and you will enter the memory. When the memory ends, you will come back. Simple. Harry pointed to the bowl and both Coulson and Fury put a finger in the bowl. Harry just chuckled. He only put a small bit in there, not the whole confrontation. Just the end, where he killed the snake and defeated Riddle's diary. A couple of minutes later, Fury and Coulson came back to themselves. They stared at each other, and then at Harry. Coulson exclaimed, "You were just 12. Where the hell were the adults?" They were too busy pointing fingers and not believing a 12-year-old about what he had figured out, to listen. The girl was one of my best friend's sister. Someone had to do something. That was actually one of my milder years. First year we faced a mountain troll, a giant Cerberus, and one of the teachers tried to kill me. Third year there was that escaped convict who turned out to be innocent, and my godfather. Oh, and a teacher tried to wipe my memories. Fourth year there was a dragon, a sphinx, and the rebirth of my parents' murderer. Oh, and one of my teachers tried to kill me. Fifth year, a teacher tortured me and my godfather died, because of the same madman. Sixth year there was a horde of zombies and my mentor died. I kind of went on a year-long camping trip from hell, the year I was supposed to graduate, and more people died. Hell, I died that year. Harry was not usually so glib. He was just stating facts at this point, knowing he'd have to tell the story at some point. What do you mean you died? Fury asked, slowly. Took a killing curse. Right in the chest. Statistically unsurvivable. Unstoppable. Instant death. I thought it would save more people. The madman and his troops were going to kill all the children at the school to get to me, so I went to him and took it like a man. Turns out prophecies are immutable, but once they run their course, anything goes. So when I saved the world from the madman and defeated him, the prophecy was over. Problem was, he was defeated but not gone. When he came back from the dead, again he decided that the world should suffer for his failures. That's when the war truly started, and the rest you know. And here I am. Harry finished with a sad smile. How are you still sane? Fury asked. Don't know. Maybe I'm not, and that's why I am still going. Harry joked. Come on. I'm going to show you one more room and then that's enough of my secrets shared. Harry, you do know that you will need to speak to someone about all this at some point, right? Coulson said softly. Who would I speak to? You're the closest thing I have to a friend and you're just doing your job. Harry snapped. He realized he was suddenly breathing hard and his magic was rolling off him in waves. He did not know it, but for a second his eyes had flashed. There was a smell in the air like ozone and the air seemed charged with energy. He took a step back, holding his hands up with his eyes downcast. He reined in his emotions and waited for his heart rate to slow. When he was in control of himself again, he looked up and saw that they were both just looking at him, no fear or judgment. Coulson actually looked a little sad. Sorry about that. Going through my memories must have jostled something loose. Harry apologized. I was actually just thinking that you need some R&R. Honestly, you're conducting yourself admirably after what you've been through. I've known men with half your experience that had to leave the service for good because they couldn't contain their emotions. Half your experience and twice your problems. You're a rare find, Harry Potter, and I'd be happy to have you on our side when the going gets tough. Fury said honestly. Coulson just gaped. Fury had never spoken like that before. It may just be because of my mental conditioning. The practice of occlumency is a mental technique used to protect against mental attack. It has the side effects of allowing for better emotional control and greater recall, Harry supplied. And we're going to need details on that at some point, but let's finish the tour first and then I think we'll get something to eat before continuing our discussions, Fury said. Okay then, the last room is my vault. It contains only some items of sentimental value. Mostly it's just stuff I picked up in my travels, and stuff I thought may be useful when I still thought there was hope for my home world, Harry said. He led them to the last room, and opened the door. Both Fury and Coulson just stared. In front of them were mountains of gold, jewels and treasures, portraits from masters, and Fabergé eggs, incalculable wealth, everywhere the eye could see. Most of this stuff is useless though, Harry scoffed. But this is a fortune, Coulson said. Yeah, and what will it do to the economy? I might get away with some of the jewels, but the art probably exists in this world already. I suppose I could do little bits here and there with gold. Enough to survive, but I can't do that forever. If I want to live, I need to work, Harry explained. Fortunately, I have all these useful skills to rent out, Harry joked, looking at Fury. That's very sensible of you, Mr. Potter. We'll talk to our people, though. Find out what viable options there are if you are interested in letting go of some of this, Fury said, gesturing at the room around him. Coulson just nodded and continued following them as they left the rooms. They exited Harry's trunk and Harry put it back in the bag, which he put around his neck again. You are the first and only people who knows about that place. My safe haven. There was only one purpose for that visit, even though you seem to have discovered other things of interest along the way. I needed you to see that I'm trusting you with more than just the contracts enforcing our cooperation. One day when we know each other better and we've developed a relationship based in trust, we might consider destroying the contracts, or replace them with something better. Fury had a look in his eye which Harry didn't know, having basically just met the man. I understand, but since they serve all our interests at the moment, let's leave them in place. Could they be modified though? In what way? Harry asked curiously. I was thinking we will definitely need to discuss things in the future that need to be kept safe, and there doesn't seem to be a better way to protect information between us than what you have set up. But you've specified that our discussion in this room stay secret. We won't always be able to come here, Fury explained. What did you have in mind? Harry asked. Can we change it so it includes anything we discuss in your trunk? It's a safe space that won't allow for us to be overheard, that you always carry with you and that nobody knows about. How safe is that pouch? Do we need to set up something for you, or will it be safe with you? Fury asked, wondering what would happen if the pouch was damaged. Didn't I tell you? Once the pouch is bonded to you, only people who you want to can see it. It's one of the reasons why its creation was strictly monitored, documented, and only allowed for law enforcement or people who took a binding oath. It's also why the goblins were in charge of keeping track of them. They were thorough and kept track of everything. Couldn't have just anyone walking around with an indestructible safe that could be used for nefarious purposes. Imagine what a criminal could do with these. I keep mine around my neck. It hangs over the chest and adds a layer of protection as well. Even if I'm stripped naked, nobody could take this from me, Harry said, putting the pouch back around his neck and in his shirt. Coulson and Fury soon followed suit. Thank you, Harry, Coulson said. This is a precious gift and will come in handy more than you think. I can't agree more, Fury said, touching a finger to his eye patch before smiling. Okay, back to business. What do you know about mutants? Fury asked. They started discussing a wide range of topics, Harry noting that Fury took some delight in shocking him over and over again. He supposed he deserved it after all his own reveals. There was an interruption as someone delivered food, which Coulson had stepped out to arrange. It was some hours later when they were interrupted again with a knock on the door. Fury looked at his watch and smiled, knowing who it was, and called their meeting to a close. When Coulson answered the door, it was to find an agent with a thin package. Coulson took it and returned to a table, giving the folder to Harry. He opened it to find a folder full of documents. When he opened what looked like a small book, he found it was an ID with his name and a S.H.I.E.L.D badge on the side. It stated that he was a foreign consultant, working directly under S.H.I.E.L.D for an indeterminate amount of time. He looked up at Fury. "What is this?" "We arranged for your documentation to be made. You are now S.H.I.E.L.D's premier consultant on the occult. You will be working off the books on your own research. Your past has been fabricated and any agency wishing access to you will need to contact us. Your past has been heavily redacted for your own safety and that of the unnamed agency you used to work for." Fury said with a straight face. "He means you are now registered as being from our world, and nobody will be able to find out anything except through us." "Congratulations, Harry. You're now an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. Coulson said with a smile and held out his hand to shake. Harry shook his hand, and turned to the director whose back was straight with a hard look in his eyes. Harry recognized that look and straightened himself up. "Agent Potter, reporting for duty, sir," he said, saluting with his eyes front. Fury suppressed a smile. "At ease, Agent. We're not the army. You may call me Director or Fury. Coulson will arrange a place for you to live and get you situated. You have a month before physical conditioning and combat assessment. Be ready. We won't hold back." At this, Harry smiled and relaxed. "What do I do in the meantime?" he asked. "You've been on mission for years, Harry. You will need to relax. Take a break and come to grips with your situation. Take the time to grieve and acclimate. Once you start work, if you hadn't, you'll look back and wonder why you didn't," Coulson said. "I'll start making plans for how we communicate, and a safe place for our meetings. I'd rather not use my backup plan as a debriefing room. I'll make the place I set up as safe as it would have been, though. I have some plans you might find advantageous," Harry said. "Fine, but you will take the time to get your head straight. That is an order, Agent." Fury scowled. "Yes, Director. I understand," Harry said. "Thank you." It was a couple of months since Harry had been made part of S.H.I.E.L.D. Fury had not been kidding. Physical conditioning and combat training had not been too bad. A life on the razor's edge had kept his reflexes sharp, and thanks to his constant work, Harry wasn't in bad shape. He was probably one of the fitter agents currently active. What tired him out was his constant missions. He was sent mostly to extract friendlies in bad situations, and to collect intelligence. He was permitted the use of obliviation on friendlies only to protect his own secrets. No matter what he did, though, questions were always asked about how. A rumor started circulating that S.H.I.E.L.D. had a deep cover operative of immense skill. They referred to said operative simply as Ghost. He was never seen or heard, and was apparently capable of getting in anywhere. Fury didn't confirm anything, and as a result, people obviously thought it was true. When he wasn't on the field, he was conducting research and producing more potions. Miraculous recoveries became another topic of discussion, since nobody ever remembered how the wounded had been fixed. Harry was sent all over the world, sometimes just to visit places. He'd take pictures and play the tourist until he had familiarized himself with an area. Fury had jumped at the idea that Harry could be anywhere when needed, as long as he knows the area. Harry had come up with a book of coded phrases that would refer to where Harry had to go and what his mission would be. Anything written in one would appear in the others. A small two-way mirror mounted inside the book's cover was used for direct communication. Harry kept his book on him at all times, and it would vibrate when a new message was added or someone wanted to speak to him. Fury and Coulson kept theirs in their bags, which was with them at all times as well. For meetings, Harry had enchanted their badges to be two-way port keys. It would deposit them in an extended space he had set up under this new house, given to him by S.H.I.E.L.D. once he proved his usefulness, which was protected by a Fidelius. Their modified contracts allowing them to speak frankly without fear of being overheard or the information ever getting out. Fury had not been pleased the first time he had taken the port key. Not only was it a nauseating experience, but he had forgotten to leave his cell phone behind. It had not survived the trip. Harry had elected to call the briefing room Marauders Den. When he explained its significance, both Coulson and Fury agreed, and toasted to the name. Harry had opted for a comfortable setting with couches enhanced with cushioning charms and a coffee table. There was a bar in the corner with stools and a couple of bottles mounted overhead. He had gotten a couple of bottles of what Fury and Coulson liked, with a cold cabinet, enchanted to keep things at exactly the right temperature for beer. Harry had found he liked a cold beer every now and then and had taken to Coulson's favorite. They had a couple of Fury's preference there as well. Harry had a bottle of fire whiskey up for himself, and both a soda and butterbeer on tap, which he had enchanted to turn water into their respective drinks. They still turned to water a while after being ingested, but sometimes you just need a cold drink, and when you've had enough alcohol, it was nice to not have to switch to plain water. Coulson had tried to convince him to replace the soda tap with his favorite beer, but Harry insisted that he loved his soda and butterbeer and used them too often. They were too sweet for Coulson's tastes. He had been considering adding to the taps for them for a special occasion, but there had yet to be one. Harry had been shocked to find both Fury and Coulson there, one day when he entered for a cold one. They were sitting at the bar drinking shots of fire whiskey, slowly, listening to some music on his rune-protected radio. Apparently life as the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. left him with a strong paranoid streak, and few places he felt secure enough to let off some steam. The Marauders Den was one such place. Apparently there were some things Fury had to do that he didn't like, and couldn't talk to even Coulson about. Not officially anyway. Fury liked that there was a place to talk and reason, in a place that breached no secrets. He had had Harry set up another contract with his second-in-command, Maria Hill, shortly after the Den was created. She was given a demonstration and at the urging of her director signed the contract. She was then given a pouch and mirror in case Fury needed to be contacted when he was at Marauders Den. She also had an emergency port key, only one way though, so if she used it she would be stuck in the room until someone came to fetch her. She could always just hitch a ride with one of the other two in that case. Harry was in his research lab working on his research into replicating a secrecy sensor for Fury. He had finally had some success, when the book vibrated. He stopped what he was doing and opened the book. The mirror was active, and he saw Fury's face, covered in dust. It was nighttime and the image was dark, but Harry could tell something was very wrong. Agent Potter, we have had a level 7 security breach at Secure Site Alpha. We need you to get to home base immediately. Employ Protocol WS5. I repeat, WS5 is active and report to the home base, Fury said. WS5 indicated that he was to use his best stealth and strongest protection, and that it was an emergency. Harry had never been called to any of the bases outside of that first week of training. It was done to hide both his involvement with S.H.I.E.L.D. and that he was an active agent. He had also never been told to activate WS5. He knew what that meant. "It's that bad, sir?" Harry asked, already moving to his room to equip his dragonhide armor. "Worse. We have many men down and a lot trapped, but we need you on standby." "I'm bringing them in," Fury said. "Understood. See you at home base. Potter out." Harry closed the book and set about getting ready. He was dressed and armed with a pistol he had been told to have with him at all times. Going back to the lab, Harry picked up his latest creation and apparated out. Harry reappeared on the deck of the helicarrier. He was told where it was and had a picture of what it looked like, in case he was ever needed. He was already invisible, for added protection. Coulson had made him modify his armor. It now had a hood that he could pull over and mask. He could pull up to under his eyes. He had placed a spell on the inside of the hood so he could see through it from his perspective. He had other modifications which he had been adding to over the months that helped him with his work. He was no longer in the magical world. He had needed to evolve his ways. Harry employed one of them now. It was a modification to the inversion hex. Bill had taught him this one. Apparently the Egyptians loved it. Normally the inversion hex affected a room and changed gravity for the subject. For Harry in this first setting, it would make whatever direction he wanted be down. He walked up the side of the command deck like he was taking a stroll on a flat surface. He walked to where he could see through a window and a safe arrival point inside. He then cast a silencing charm on his arrival point and apparated there. No sound was heard at his arrival, on the ceiling of the command deck. He then sat down and waited. It was a while later when Fury finally arrived. Harry, having long since gotten tired of sitting, was lying down and looking up at the people working their jobs, some taking breaks at their stations, so as not to leave their posts. Harry got up and started walking towards where Fury was. He walked down the wall and to the floor. He walked up behind Fury. Fury was staring out the window as he waited for the people he was expecting to arrive. Harry froze Fury in place for a second and whispered, "It's me." He immediately unfroze Fury. The first time he had done it without freezing him, he had almost been shocked. Fury didn't like it, but it was better than giving anything away. Fury turned to Maria and said, "Let me know when they arrive. I've got something to take care of." Then he walked away. Harry followed him. When they arrived at Fury's office, he closed the door and pressed a button. There was an electric sound as all communications were blocked, and then Fury said, "It's safe. You can come out." Harry allowed himself to slip from invisibility. He kept his hood and mask up though. "Good day, Director," Harry said. "No, it's not. I'm afraid we might have to break your cover and I don't know if we're ready. The Tesseract was stolen by Loki, Thor's brother. We don't know who he's working with, but it seems like he can control people's minds. Like one of your unforgivables." "What was it called, again?" Fury asked. "The Imperious Curse, sir." Harry thought for a moment, seeing the desperate look in Fury's eye. "It's not easy, but it can be fought." Did the recipient's face go blank and did they only respond when spoken to by the caster? Harry asked. "No, he freely volunteered information. It's like he was the same person, just on the other side. His eyes seemed a different color as well," Fury said. "Any idea?" "I don't know, sir. Maybe. I'm afraid I'd need to read his mind to find the cause," Harry said. "I won't order you to do it, but if push comes to shove, we may have no choice in the matter. I've sent Romanoff to go get Banner. Coulson is going to speak with Stark and then he's picking up Rogers," Fury said. "Coulson's going to go fanboy on him, you know." Harry frowned. "Are you sure sending her to Banner is wise?" "She knows what she's doing. I also gave her a calming draft to give him should he need it. Worst case, she can use it as a bargaining chip. Let's just hope it works on him," Fury replied. Oh, I almost forgot." Harry reached into his pocket and handed the item in it to Fury. "Is this?" Fury asked. "Yes, just completed it when you called. You'll have to test it, but I know the enchantments took this time. Just be warned. People that use dark detectors too much begin relying on them. You'll start seeing evil around every corner if you use it too much." Harry warned him. "I'll take that into consideration," Fury said as he pocketed the item. "Stick with me. We're expecting guests. I want you to be there for the briefing." "Yes, sir," Harry replied, becoming invisible again. With that, Fury pressed the button again and left the room with Harry following a couple of feet behind him. It was a short while later that Romanoff, Banner and Coulson walked into the command deck. They discussed the plan, and as Romanoff was about to lead Banner to his lab, he turned and spoke directly to Fury. "Director, I need to know exactly what was in that vial. I've not been able to come up with anything like that, and other mood-altering drugs don't work on me at all. If there is a possibility of me living a normal life after this, I need to know. Romanoff says that you are the only one who knows where it comes from." "I am. That information is classified, though. I can't tell you," Fury started. "Don't you know what that would mean for me?" Bruce interrupted. "Please, I'll do anything to just feel like myself again." "As I was saying," Fury loudly interrupted him. Some of the agents nearby flinched and started looking at Bruce like he was a bomb. "That information is classified, but if you help us out here and this situation gets resolved, then I'll be in a position to get you more info," Fury said. He had discussed the situation with Harry once before. Harry had likened the Hulk to someone inflicted by lycanthropy. He didn't like what the army was doing, and had said that he would be glad to help. Given the doctor's extreme intelligence, he might even be able to help Harry figure out how to modify the Wolfsbane potion. "I've actually discussed your situation with the concerned party already, and they are willing to help more than just with keeping you calm if you are willing to lend your extreme intelligence to them. They believe it might even be possible for you to maintain control when you change." How had Harry put it? More carrot, less stick? They have been busy with other projects for a while now, but might be willing to move up their schedule if I asked them to. Bruce was dumbstruck. If that was the case, why hadn't he heard of any labs working on something like this? It must be a private research company, or Fury would just say that it's classified and left it at that. That he had already discussed the other guy must mean that Fury was getting a different view than the army seemed to have, from whoever he was speaking to. Thank you," Bruce said. "I've not done anything for you yet, Banner. Go find me the Tesseract, and then we'll talk." If Fury had any say in it, Harry and Banner would be working side by side, and who knows what they could accomplish then. Fury was already loath to send Harry into harm's way. His value to S.H.I.E.L.D. was astronomical. If he could have a Hulk-sized bodyguard, all the more reason to get them together. Harry placed a listening charm on Coulson while he was talking to Rogers about signing his collection. Harry was going to have fun mocking him for this one day. Just then they got confirmation that there was a sighting of Loki. Steve left with Widow and Fury went directly to his office, expecting Harry to follow. Once the door was closed and the security enabled, Harry became visible. I need you in Stuttgart. See if you can protect any of the civilians, but stay out of the way if you can. We need Loki brought in. Wait for the captain to arrive. He's seen weapons like this before. I won't risk losing you to that scepter of his. If you can, hit him with a tracking spell and then stay out of sight. Got that? Fury asked. Yes, sir, Harry said and went invisible before immediately apparating away. Harry arrived close to the location Loki was said to be. He apparated by line of sight from there until he arrived at what seemed to be a grand ball. Guests were already screaming. Guess he was too late. He made his way inside and saw Loki walking away from a man lying bloodied on an altar. He couldn't do nothing. It had always been his problem. He went to the man once Loki had exited the room, changing into something similar to the myths he remembered of him. Harry checked his pulse and found the man was still alive and started healing him. The eye is a delicate instrument and needed precision, so it took longer than he wanted to spend, but when it was complete, Harry obliviated him and left him unconscious where he lay. He noted the name badge said, Dr. Heinrich Schaefer. He'd need to remember that. Why had Loki focused on him? Harry then made his way outside to hear Loki speaking of free will and the need to be ruled. Why do the bad guys always monologue? Harry then finally saw him, all three of him. Well, that sucked. He was never the best with illusion magic. Fortunately, only one was speaking. So Harry made his way slowly over to him. He waited for a moment knowing he'd have to apparate away immediately and hopefully avoid detection, so he put a silencing charm around himself in preparation. That was apparently his first mistake. Loki spun around as if someone had called him. What have we here? A ghost in the night, perhaps. Loki smiled knowingly, looking around as if searching for something. I can feel your power, so I know you're there. Why don't you show yourself? Afraid I might be too powerful for you. He lifted his spear. Or do you know what this can do? Are you afraid of becoming your best self, without fear? Or are you going to hope I avert my gaze so that you may strike me in the back? Loki shot a pulse of energy just past Harry, who stayed as still as he could, not wanting to give his position away. Are you a coward? Too afraid to move? Then how about I make you? He picked up one of the people kneeling by his side and hurled them at where he had felt Harry's magical discharge. Harry had no choice. He had to intercept the person before they broke their necks on the steps behind him. He cast a momentum absorption spell at the person and caught them in his arms, allowing himself to become visible and putting the person down. There you are. Isn't that better? Now, why were you sent? Do they think that one man can stop me? I am a god and you are but a mortal. Whatever kind of power you wield cannot hold against my might. Loki snarled. I have heard that before, Harry finally said. I didn't believe it then either. You don't happen to have daddy issues too, do you? Harry was hoping to keep his attention off the innocents. He did not know what a hot-button subject he had stepped on. How dare you? Loki screamed. He lost control of his illusions and they disappeared. You will suffer for your slight, you insignificant worm. As he said this, he strode to where Harry stood, spear at the ready. I've heard that before as well, Harry said flippantly. Do all the bad guys buy their books at the same bookstore? At this, Harry apparated 20 feet back. Continuing his mocking, he said, Excuse me, sir. May I interest you in a book on bad guy catchphrases? It's sure to drive fear into your enemies' hearts. Or your money back. Half price for first-time villains. Just as Loki was about to reach him again, he apparated 20 feet to the left of where he had been. Seriously, it's like none of you can be original. Harry had noted that the people had finally started to run away, but one idiot was standing there with his phone recording what was happening. Having no other choice, Harry apparated to the man and then apparated him to his arrival point, before immediately returning to where he had been. This was apparently his second mistake. Loki was standing there waiting with a smile on his face. He touched the scepter to Harry's chest and said, I will have all of your secrets and all of your fears, and then I shall visit them upon you over and over until you scream for mercy. Then I'll have you murder anybody you hold dear before I allow you to die, but not before carving out that insolent tongue. Harry felt the power in the scepter trying to affect him. It was washing over him, like a tidal wave of force, bashing against his occlumency shields. It was not like the Imperius at all. It seemed to affect memory at some level, which is what his shields protect. He just stood there looking at Loki and then smiled. That one was entirely new, and he shot Loki in the face with a blasting curse. Loki flipped end over end before landing on the pavement, hard. But it will take more than your fancy scepter to take my mind. I have been through more pain and mental assaults than you can imagine, and I'm immune to that, and the threats of a spoiled brat. How's your nose, by the way? Loki, nose unfortunately still unbroken, was suddenly back on his feet faster than Harry had anticipated and shot a bolt of energy back at Harry, who had not been ready. It hit him in the chest and sent him flying. He crashed to the pavement, the air already having been knocked out of him. Loki approached him, weary of it being a trick. When Harry seemed to be in genuine pain, Loki smirked and said, "Now I'll turn you into a real ghost." As he unleashed another bolt headed for Harry, Harry raised a shield, but it was unnecessary, as just before it reached him, Rogers jumped in front of him, with his own shield. "Why is it always Germany?" he asked with mild humor. Harry started focusing on himself as the captain and Loki started fighting. It seemed he had landed badly and one arm was broken. He focused his magic on the problem, and a minute later, he was ready to go. He got to his feet and started jogging to where the confrontation had moved. He needed to make sure Rogers knew he was up and didn't need protecting. He wouldn't be able to use his full capabilities while he tried to keep Loki away from Harry. Harry made himself invisible and stalked around the fighting pair. When he was sure Loki was engaged, he took a shot at the back of one leg, while becoming visible. Loki was so engrossed in the fight, he didn't take notice till it was too late. His left leg felt like it couldn't hold up a feather, let alone himself, and he started falling with a curse. "Damn you!" He pushed off with his other leg, buying himself time as he went tumbling off to the side. "Don't let him recover," Harry said to the captain, who ran after him. Loki seemed to concentrate for a moment, and Harry realized he was pumping energy into the leg, forcing any unwanted energies out. A moment later he was on his feet again, just before Rogers could go for the knockout. At this time, rock music started playing over the speakers of the nearby Quinjet, and then Stark was there. It was all over after one last hit from Iron Man. Loki lost possession of the scepter and his clothes reverted to another style. As Loki was led away by agents, at gunpoint, Rogers turned to Harry and asked, "Are you okay? It looked like he gave you quite the beating." He trailed off looking at Harry's arm. He could have sworn that was broken. "I got him as much as he got me. When he started threatening the people, I couldn't just sit back," Harry said. "Nice fight, kid. You'll have to let me check out your tech sometime, but next time wait for the professionals," Stark said, walking up to them before Rogers could reply. "What do you mean?" Harry asked, suddenly worried even though the part of his face you could see didn't show it. "I watched the whole thing. Didn't you notice the cameras?" Stark asked. Harry looked up and realized the same cameras that caught Loki also got him. He sighed. Fury was going to blow a gasket. "Oh well, what's done is done." He walked onto the plane without invitation, touched Loki's head, and knocked him out. He also put a tracking charm on one of his shoes. Hopefully, since it's not on his body, he wouldn't notice. When he turned, about to leave, he realized he had several guns pointed at him. "What did you do?" came the cool voice of Natasha.
"I knocked him out. Don't want him trying to escape. My work here is done, so I have to leave now."
Harry replied in clipped tones. "I'm afraid you'll have to come with us," was her reply. "We don't know you. We don't know who you work for." Harry just sighed again and turned towards her. "Don't you know me, Natalie?" Harry asked, whispering the name so only she could hear, and winked. Her eyes widened for a moment, but Harry put a finger over his mouth and looked sideways to where the other people were standing behind him. Having realized who he was and knowing he was in some way connected to S.H.I.E.L.D., she knew to keep her suspicions to herself. Nodding slightly and lowering her weapon, she made eye contact with one of the agents and said, "Let him go. He's a friendly." Immediately they lowered their weapons and Harry walked out. Steve smiled at him and said, "Thanks for the assistance. I realized not everybody would risk themselves for others." He looked over at Stark as he said this. Before Stark could interject, Harry spoke up. "Don't be so hard on him, Captain. He's not a soldier and doesn't need to do what he does. He's famous enough without it. He puts himself at risk anyway. The rest of the time he's an ass, but a well-meaning one. Nobody challenges him intellectually, I suspect. the one thing he values above all else. Harry defended Stark. Stark was quiet for a moment, before asking, "Who are you?" unintentionally copying Roger's thought. "That, Mr. Stark, is my secret. And don't give the old man a hard time. He comes from a time where sarcasm wasn't funny, but rude. Your modus operandi will not just confound him but also cause problems between you," Harry said with a knowing look. "That being said," here he turned to Rogers, "I believe you owe Mr. Stark an apology. Your insinuation just now was derogatory and I expected better of you. What would Coulson think?" Steve actually looked at his feet before nodding and saying, "You're right." He turned to Stark. "I am sorry for my insinuation. It was uncalled for," he said sincerely. "No problem," Stark said. He was watching the man with the hood and mask as he looked between the two of them. "Good. I've really gotta go. See you later." And with that he walked around the jet, turned invisible and apparated out. "Did he just say see you later?" Tony asked. "Yes, he did," Steve said. "Weird," Tony said. Rogers agreed, but didn't say it. 5 minutes later, Fury was his office, with Coulson and Harry. Both of them were staring at Harry. "What? I said I was sorry? How could I know he could detect my magic?" At that point I needed to intervene before he started killing innocents, trying to get me to reveal myself. Harry explained for the second time. "We know," Fury said. He was still staring daggers. "What we want to know is why you didn't knock the cameras out. You've never been caught before," Coulson said. "When I was done saving that Schaefer guy's life, I realized he had no problems with hurting innocent people. I couldn't let them suffer because of my mistake. I can't allow that to ever happen again, not after Sirius." Harry said all that without emotion. "Fair enough." Fury let out a sigh and then he smirked, ever so slightly. "Well, I guess the cat's out of the bag. Someone uploaded a video of you taunting Loki and it's gone viral." "Was it from a phone?" Harry asked, thinking about the guy he had apparated to safety. "No." "Why? Was there a phone?" Fury asked. "I don't think that footage would have survived the apparition, but I had to get back to Loki so I didn't check," Harry explained. "The footage was from a CCTV feed," Coulson said. "Stark, why does he do these things?" Harry asked. "Now I'm going to have punish him. Should be fun, bring a camera." Harry suddenly smiled at the thought. "Enough about that. I think it's time we discussed your participation in the Avengers initiative," Fury said. When the Quinjet arrived, Loki was carried out on a stretcher with Thor by his side. The team disembarked and were escorted to the briefing room. When they arrived, Fury was waiting with Coulson and a familiar face, mask by his side. Everyone stopped, even Romanoff, who suspected that Harry was part of S.H.I.E.L.D. Stark turned to Romanoff. "How did he get here so fast?" He turned back to Harry. "How did you get here so fast?" Harry just smiled, not caring that nobody could see it. Fury didn't smile. He looked at Harry and told him, "Go wake up Sleeping Beauty. I'll go down once you've brought Thor back." "Yes, sir," Harry replied and walked off. Stark was still speechless. His mind was trying to work out how the hell this was possible. Then the one possible answer came to him. "It's not the same guy, is it? It couldn't be. He'd have to go faster than a Quinjet. And I know that I would have picked it up on my sensors." He smirked, feeling much better now that he had figured it out. "Oh, it's him. And thank you so much for telling the world about him, by the way," Fury said with contempt. "Are you saying I did that? I have no idea what you are talking about." Stark lied. Badly. On Fury's middle finger, a gold ring with the S.H.I.E.L.D. insignia on it heated up for a second. Fury smiled. It seemed the secrecy sensor was working as advertised. He suddenly decided to never take it off again. Potter's warnings be damned. "Of course you don't. Let me just tell you, I've been informed by a credible source that there will be a reckoning for that. I look forward to seeing it. I've been told it will be funny, for anyone but the one responsible." Coulson had been right. Fury's smile was just not the same since he lost the eye. It seemed wrong somehow. Tony Stark saw this too and subconsciously gulped, but refused to rise to the bait. "So, where did Teen Angst go?" Tony asked, referring to the leather-wearing hooded man. "Agent Potter has gone to wake up Loki," Coulson said. They had decided to let the team in on some of Harry's secrets. If he was going to join the team, they needed to know. They saw Harry on the screen. Fury was watching, walking into the glass cell where Loki was lying on the ground. Harry informed the technician to lock it up with him and Thor, who was still by Loki's side, inside. Fury put a finger to his ear and said, "Do it." Once the door was closed and sealed, Harry touched a single finger to Loki's forehead, and he woke with a start. Thor's shoulders slumped with relief, and he slapped Harry hard on the back with a large smile on his face. Apparently he had been worried. "Hey there, princess. Did you have a nice nap?" Harry asked with a humorless smile that no one could see. "You think this is over? I will laugh over your corpse before this is over," Loki said, not making a move. "Don't speak to Loki like he is a child. He is still a prince of Asgard and deserves some respect," Thor warned. "He attacked me earlier tonight after telling me he'd torture me and make me kill my loved ones before killing me," Harry deadpanned. "Not before cutting out your tongue," Loki corrected. "Oh, right, he did say that." "Sorry, Loki, I forgot," he said with the same smile under his mask. "You did not." "Loki, what has become of you?" Thor asked. Loki was going to reply, but Harry beat him to it. "Sorry, friend Thor, but we must follow procedure in regard to questioning the man who threatened our world. If you would place your hand on my shoulder, I will take us to where the director in charge of this ship awaits our return." Thor looked at Harry and sagged. "As you say, it is your world. I'll let you follow your procedures, but once we are done, Loki will go to Asgard for judgment." He placed a hand on Harry's shoulder and he apparated them directly to the briefing room. Harry responded to Thor's statement as if nothing had just happened, ignoring the guns and shocked faces all around. "I will not presume to speak for my superiors on what is to become of Loki, but I don't think there will be a problem with that. We only want peace with your world." Fury scowled for a second, but conceded the point. "Agent Potter is right. We want peace. But Loki brings war. We need to stop that first." Tony suddenly spoke up. "Is nobody going to address the fact that someone just teleported into the room?" Everyone else was silent, still staring at the man. "Nobody? Okay. Let me do it then." "What the hell?" he exclaimed. "Feeling better?" Harry asked seriously. "A little bit," Stark replied. Harry then spotted Dr. Banner. "Dr. Banner, wow, I'm really a big fan of your brain." Harry gushed as he walked forward and shook the reluctant doctor's hand. "Do you follow my work?" the doctor asked uncertainly. "Not in the slightest. Not nearly smart enough. I tried though. Wow. Everything just flew right over my head. You must be a real genius." Harry continued. "I wouldn't go that far," he started, but Stark interrupted. "I'm a genius, and you never went on about it like that," Stark said, slightly affronted. "Yeah, but you know it and brag about it and talk about it. It's really not flattering. Bruce here, though. He's modest and intelligent, and he knows about chemicals and radiation. Such fascinating subjects." Here Bruce could see a smile in Harry's eyes. "How did my calming draft work for you?" "You made that?" Bruce asked. "Yes, he did, but we must get on task." "Sorry, but we must find the Tesseract." Fury interrupted. Bruce looked upset for a moment, but nodded. They discussed the stolen iridium, the implications, and decided on a plan. Bruce and Stark went off to the lab and Harry turned to Agent Romanoff once Fury and Coulson left. "I was sorry to hear about your partner," he said sincerely. Natasha's face showed worry for a moment before it smoothed over. Is a good friend. We'll get him back. I already have an idea of how to break the spell. I just need some time. If we can capture him, I promise you, I can bring him back." Harry promised. She looked at him for a moment, before smirking at him. "You do that and I might allow you to take me on a second date. Is that how you ask a bloke out? No wonder you're still single." Harry said a little over-dramatically. She just stared at him, before smiling. "I think I'm glad you're here. We need all the help we can get." Harry just scoffed, waved his hand in her direction and said, "Oh, relax. Everything will be fine." He subtly cast a cheering charm on her, seeing the need. Natasha just sat back with a genuine smile on her face. "How do you do that?" she asked, in wonder. "Sleight of hand," Harry replied. "I thought you said it was," she started to say before Harry put a finger on her lips. "Exactly, don't spoil the surprise for the others," Harry said. He then turned to the captain. "Don't you hate these situations? What do they say in the army? Hurry up and wait." "It is. Did you serve?" Rogers asked. He was not sure he followed what had just happened, but it seemed like Harry had put her mind at ease with just a few words after turning her down for a date. "I was part of a special program. Comparatively speaking, I was in special operations. Our mission statement was to uproot domestic terrorist cells and expose them or take them out. We lost a lot of good men, but it was the good fight, and somebody had to do it, Harry said with a sad smile, looking lost for a moment. I'm sorry, Rogers said. I know what it's like. Let's go for a walk, Captain. You don't seem the type to like sitting still, Harry said, getting up. He looked at Natasha. If the lady would excuse us. She smiled and said, Go ahead. I suddenly feel hungry. I can't remember the last time I ate. Now don't go ruining that figure of yours, Harry said playfully. I could eat more than you without picking up a pound, she stated seriously. Then why did you eat a salad at that Italian restaurant? Harry asked. Because it was delicious, Natasha called after them as they left the room. Harry just chuckled. Rogers looked at him strangely and asked, Why do you flirt with her when you said no to a date? Because flirting is fun, Harry said. It's a bit of a game between us at this point. When I met her, she told me her name was Natalie, because she was trying to get close to me for a mission. I was new in town, you see. When I found out she wasn't who she said she was and called her out, that made me the winner. But she doesn't like losing, so the day I give in to her, she'll have won, and I don't intend to make it easy on her. So you're saying no is actually keeping her interest? Rogers asked. To a degree, it's normally called playing hard to get. Neither of us are really serious about it. She's a busy girl, she's career-driven. So am I. To a degree, we have similar goals though, so it could work if we had the time. Until that changes for either of us, we can flirt and play our game, because it is fun and since both of us know it's a game, Harry explained. Why are you taking the time to explain all this? Rogers asked. Because you asked, Harry said. Okay, hold on a moment, I've got to do something. Just stand still. Harry moved his hand. Rogers didn't see anything happening. Okay, it's set. We'll now not be bothered by anyone. Put your hand on my shoulder, please. Rogers hesitated for a moment, suspecting what was going to happen, but put his hand on his shoulder anyway. They disappeared. When they reappeared, they were on a beach. Where are we? Rogers asked, seemingly immune to the side effects of apparition.
We're at the beach. I need to share some things with you and I find a visual aid helps me.
Harry flipped his hood back and removed his mask. It gets warm in there. I'm gonna get me an ice cream. Can I buy you one? Harry said. I'm fine, thank you. Rogers replied immediately. Okay, we're going to try this again, and this time I want you to be honest with me and not just say the polite thing. Do you want an ice cream? Harry asked again. Rogers smiled ruefully. Yes, please. That would be nice, thank you. You're too nice. Nobody does that anymore, where you decline politely the first time and they offer again. Just be honest the first time. Honesty is never rude, Harry said. Steve actually liked this man. He was straightforward and seemed world-wise. You wanted to talk about something, he asked. Harry got them each an ice cream. He got Rogers the biggest one they had when he refused to ask for anything more than a small cone. Rogers was smiling from ear to ear, so Harry knew he did the right thing. He led them on the familiar path to the dune where he had first arrived. He climbed up the dune and sat at the top. It was a warm summer's day, and he cast a cooling charm on both of them. I'm going to tell you a story and you will sit there and eat your ice cream and listen. No interruptions. This is going to be difficult for me. You may nod your head to tell me you understand now. Harry said seriously, more so than Steve had seen before. He nodded. And so Harry told his story. He started with his earliest memories of cooking before he was old enough to see over the counter without a chair. The unfair way he was treated. His room under the stairs. The owl post arriving and then Hagrid. The train station. The school. The highlights of every year. The friends he made. The things he learned. The prophecy. The losses he suffered. The things he was forced to do. Arriving here. Steve sat there looking at Harry. He'd watched as Harry's heart raced in excitement at times, and tears that fell at the losses at other times. When Harry had finished, he asked, Why tell me all this, Harry? Harry was looking out over the sea again, relaxing after all the emotions he had relived faded away with the sounds of the ocean. Because everybody knows your story, and you're alone. Because now you know my whole story, and I'm alone. We're both the last of our people. Now we have a chance to not be alone anymore. I've told you everything. Nobody in this world knows me like you do now. But more than that, I needed you to trust me. There are battles coming that we will have to face together, and you can't fight alongside people you don't trust. And I believe I can trust you with my secrets. Harry explained. Of course, Harry, I'd be honored to fight beside you, Steve said vehemently. Harry gave a wry smile. Now we just need a way to get the rest of the team to work together. Steve winced. They arrived back on the helicarrier, Harry heading for the lab, and Steve off to go find Romanoff. Harry arrived at the door to find Stark poking at Banner with a sharp implement. You guys are getting along well, Harry said, standing with a shoulder against the door frame. Good evening, Agent Potter, Banner said. Please, you can call me Harry, he said as he pulled his hood back and lowered his mask. Well, hello then, Harry, Stark said. You can call me Agent Potter until I get you back for uploading that video to the internet, Harry said crossly. Oh yeah, what are you going to do? Stark asked, poking the lion. Harry just smiled and made a gesture with his hand. Oh, I don't know. A little of this, a little of that. Tony stood there smirking until he noticed Bruce staring down at something. He looked down, lifting his hands up to see if there was something on him. When he found nothing, he looked back up at Bruce, who was now staring next to his head. He looked where Bruce was looking and saw his hand. More precisely, his fingers. He had none. They were all thumbs. What the hell? As he said it, he dropped the pointy object he had been poking Bruce with. Careful you don't drop something, he said sarcastically. Honestly, Stark, you're all thumbs today. At this, Banner snorted. He looked like he was going to explode with laughter. Harry waved his hand again and Stark's digits went back to normal. I hope they have that on video. Coulson will be so disappointed with me that he missed it otherwise. Tony was staring at his hands again. Then he rounded on Harry. What the hell are you? Unique, was Harry's answer. Bruce had finally gained control of himself. Do you have some form of hypnotic power, making us think you teleported around and making Stark and I believe his fingers were all thumbs? Do you want to play the guessing game, or do you want me to tell you? Harry asked. Tell us, Stark said. Not you. I'd tell him when you were gone, or we could leave and I could tell him. I already told Steve. We kind of bonded over ice cream. It was a nice moment. Harry explained with a small smile. Banner seemed to like Stark a little riled up. He was finding it very amusing, but he didn't want to stir the pot. You can tell me when you tell Stark. You're no fun, Harry pouted. I just don't want him bothering me even more, and I know he'd become insufferable, Bruce explained with another smile as Stark just glared at him. Okay. Stark, if you want to hear, please disable the video feed in the room. I don't want this out there, Harry said offhandedly. How would I do that? Stark asked. Oh, come off it. I saw you place that device on the terminal, Harry exclaimed. Shh. Hold on a second, geez. Stark went to his personal device and typed in some commands. There, we're safe. Harry stepped into the room and closed the door. It's simple. I do magic. I came from another reality accidentally and now I'm stuck here. He pointed sharply at Stark. Then, don't make me punish you. I'm sorry, Harry, but even I know that there are too many other things that could explain your abilities. Perhaps you just think it's magic, Banner replied. Okay, how to prove it to you then? Harry asked, pondering. He had an idea. He sent a stinging jinx at Stark's left foot, just above the shoe. Ow! Why are you hurting me? Stark asked as he bent down to examine his foot, not finding anything. Because it is fun and we both know if I had done it to Banner, you'd not believe him when he told you it hurt, Harry replied. Stark actually conceded the point. Okay, fine. A little warning next time, though. Harry just shrugged and smiled. Look, I'd give you an enchanted item, but you'll want to test it, and Fury hates it when I wreck his machines. Magic and technology don't work well together. In fact, technology likes to die around magic. Wait, hold on. You're doing something to me that might affect my arc reactor, Stark asked incredulously, all serious for the first time. I don't appreciate you playing with my life like that. Oh, I'm sorry for worrying you, Harry said honestly. Let me explain. I'd have to do the magic much closer to your chest to actually affect it. See, when magic is applied directly to a device, it is affected by the wide range of energy fields that magic produces. If I teleported with your cell phone, for example, it would be directly affected by the magic, and it would die. But if I changed your hair color while you were on the phone, there would be a much lower chance of it affecting your phone. If your phone was in your pocket, there'd be almost no chance, Harry explained. At least you had the forethought to keep that in mind, Stark said in relief. Honestly though, it is a shame. I don't know how arc reactor technology would react to magic. Harry had an idea. This would be fun. I'll be right back, Harry said as he disappeared. When he came back, he was holding a bottle of fire whiskey. Care for a drink, Dr. Banner? I don't think that's a good idea, Banner declined. Trust me, you'll want a sip of this. Harry assured him, making 2 glasses appear on the table in front of him. Did you just teleport those in? Stark asked, walking over. It had been a while since he'd had a drink. Conjured, actually. Magical constructs that disappear in a couple of hours, he replied. He turned back to Bruce. Plus, if you're a lightweight, I can simply cast a sobering charm on you. It removes any excess alcohol from your system. As Harry said this, he unstoppered the bottle and poured 2 singles. He handed 1 glass to Bruce and took the other for himself. If you're sure, maybe just a sip, Bruce said dubiously. Hey, what about me? Stark asked. Are you sure you want to try it? It's a magical alcohol, Harry said with a smirk. All the more reason for me to try it. You know I'm not going to believe Bruce here anyway. No offense, Bruce, Stark said. None taken, Banner murmured. Are you sure you want to risk it, though? I doubt the arc reactor runs that deep, Dr. Banner, Harry said. Call me Bruce, Banner said for the first time. Harry seemed a good sort to him, if strange, and at least with him around, Stark left him alone for a bit. Harry conjured another glass and poured another shot. Harry held his glass up and said cheers and downed his drink. Stark, not wanting to be outdone by Harry, downed his own glass before the fire burned down his throat. He was able to keep himself from coughing and after a moment seemed to relax a bit. Okay, I'm starting to become a believer. That drink is magic. Can I have another? Maybe on another occasion. This is a demonstration. If you're good, when this is over, I might consider selling you a bottle. Bruce, seeing there were no seeming ill effects, decided to take a small sip. It burned down his throat, and when the sensation passed, he felt a shudder run up his spine. He let out a sigh of contentment and then looked at the liquid. How is that possible? I feel better than I have any right to feel. The other guy even seems calmer. He looked at Harry. Magic, is all Harry said. Are you going to have the rest of that? Stark said, reaching for Bruce's glass, who quickly lifted it away with an annoyed look. You had your own, Bruce said with a smile. Oh, come on, Stark said. Harry laughed. He poured himself another single, before putting the bottle in one of his expanded inner pockets. He clinked glasses with Bruce and said, to partnership. He then took a small sip into his mouth, kept it there, and blew out through his mouth with the drink staying in his mouth. A gout of flame came forth. How did you do that? Bruce asked. Well, it is called fire whiskey for a reason, you know. Harry answered sincerely. The trick is blowing out the right amount of air, otherwise you just get smoke. Bruce tried it with his next sip and was able to produce a small flame, before it turned into a bunch of smoke. Cool, he said contentedly, as the smoke vanished. There was a beep from Stark's device, and he went to go look at it, still scowling and thinking that he'd like to play too. His eyes bulged and he said, Harry, what's in that fire whiskey? Nobody knows. As far as I can tell, it's just enchanted alcohol. It was one of the Ogden family secrets. Why? Harry asked, suddenly feeling a little worried. Because the charge on my arc reactor just went up, Stark said. You mean to tell me the magic is charging your reactor? Harry asked. Seems like it might. So can I have another? Stark asked with an excited smile. Not so fast. Let me think about this. How does the arc reactor work? At Stark's incredulous look, Harry clarified, don't give me specifics, just the general drift. Well, in layman's terms, he scowled at Harry. It has a reaction that takes residual energy out of the atmosphere and converts, stores and produces electricity. Harry just stared at him, then started laughing. Suddenly, what? Stark asked, miffed at this man laughing at his greatest work. I'm not laughing at you, Harry said as he started gaining control of himself. It's just so funny. My magic is the same. It takes energy from the environment and converts, stores and produces magic. Harry was still smiling. Are you telling me you're an arc reactor? Stark asked, flabbergasted. No, I'm saying I'm a magic reactor. Electricity is a form of energy of one specific type. Magic is an energy that encompasses all types. Your arc reactor is doing what it always does, but because there's more energy available, there's more being converted. Harry said with a happy smile. That actually sounded scientific. Are you sure you're not smarter than you think? Bruce asked Harry. I had a friend who was considered the brightest of our generation. She's the one that researched it and told me what her findings were. She would have been able to answer all your questions in terms you can understand, Harry said sadly. I'm sorry, Harry, Bruce said sincerely, only now realizing that Harry was stuck in a world he was unfamiliar with, separated from all his friends and family. Maybe one day we can figure out a way for you to go back. No, there's nothing to go back to. My world was destroyed by a madman. I was the only survivor when I got sent here, Harry said, not looking in their eyes. Even Stark was able to see the loss, but not knowing what to say and trying to get Harry's mind off his issues, asked, "So, about that drink? I've never had such a good excuse to drink." He smiled roguishly. "I have another idea," Harry said, having been successfully distracted. He conjured a tall glass and then filled it with water, which he then turned into butterbeer. "This is another drink from my world. The water is real and completely clean. I then used magic to change it to butterbeer. Once it heats up, it will turn back into water. So it's a fun way to not get drunk or fat and enjoy a drink. The test here is to see if, when you drink a bit, it affects you the same way as the fire whiskey did. This way I don't get fury on me about getting you drunk while you're supposed to be working." "That was amazing," Bruce said. "You just created something from nothing, and then changed it into another substance entirely. Could you make gold?" "I could, potentially, but the process unravels after a while and the gold would disappear. It was considered illegal as well where I am from, and I was in law enforcement, so I dislike doing things like that," Harry stated. "You were a magic cop?" Stark asked as he first examined the glass and contents. "And why can you produce real water but not real gold? That doesn't make any sense." "Mr. Stark, as I'm sure you know, science follows a set of rules that cannot be broken. Just as science has rules, so does magic. I spent 7 years studying magic in school and 3 more for my chosen career. I'd prefer it if you don't question my education, just as I won't question yours," Harry said a little defensively. "And besides, the water isn't really conjured as much as it takes hydrogen and oxygen molecules out of the atmosphere and turns them into water. My friend hypothesized that temporary transfigurations of one substance to another uses magic as a substitute for the molecules needed to change one thing into another. That makes sense, I suppose, to a degree. It doesn't explain how, though. And call me Tony. Mr. Stark makes me feel old." He picked up the glass, having sniffed at it, looked in Bruce, shrugged and took a sip. "It's not bad. It doesn't have the same effect as that whiskey, though. Still, it's better than plain old water." He put the glass down and went back to his device to monitor what was happening. After a couple minutes, his eyes lit up and then he scowled. "Damn. What's it say, Tony?" Bruce asked. "It works even better than the whiskey. There goes my excuse to get drunk." Tony scowled. "Oh, I'm so sorry I gave you a fast, effective and delicious way of charging your arc reactor, Tony. Here, let me get rid of this for you." He pointed at the glass Tony had left on the table, and it disappeared. "Hey, I was going to drink that," Tony complained. Harry turned to Bruce. "So how is the search going?" "Everything is set. We're scanning and we'll get results as soon as there are any to find," Bruce said as he took the last sip of the fire whiskey. Harry took the glass and vanished it. "Is that calming draft of yours like this? An enchanted liquid?" "No," Harry said as he reached inside a pocket and pulled out another calming draft. "This is a bona fide magic potion. It is made using plants and other ingredients, some of which need to be magical. You are lucky in that I have crops of ingredients that I maintain for potions." He handed the potion to Bruce. "Why did you drink the other one so fast? I thought you'd keep it for an emergency." "Well," Bruce looked sheepish. "I thought it was a hoax or trick to get my assistance. I also partially wanted to know if it worked. Sorry if it's expensive." "It's not really. We just need to control use. My greenhouse is stocked with ingredients, but if word gets out that I can cure basically anything including the common cold, I'd be inundated with requests and my stores would suffer," Harry said. "Hold on a second," Tony interjected. "You can cure the common cold? That would be worth millions, no, billions if you could market it." He seemed excited at the prospect. "I'm afraid you are mistaken. I don't have the time, patience, or, quite frankly, the knowledge to pull something like that off. I just want to help people. I don't care about the money." Here he looked at Bruce. "If, however, I had access to a large brain like Dr. Banner over here, we could cure more than the common cold. We could cure cancer." Bruce stood there watching Harry with open-mouthed amazement, before finally asking, Are you asking me to work with you researching potions? The school I went to used pewter cauldrons and no scientific method. There are some things that are intrinsically necessary, like the direction of stirring, because of how magic works. But if I was smart enough to use maths and science to figure out why they are necessary, I could concoct potions that would change the world. Harry said passionately. That is, if you're interested. Yes, I'm interested, Bruce all but shouted. This could change his life. He could be at the forefront of a new class of medicine and it was being offered freely. How could he not want to be part of it? Great, Harry said, while reaching into a pocket. He pulled out a book he had taken from his library and handed it to Bruce. Please be careful with that. It's my only copy. Bruce read the cover, Basics in the Preparation of Magical Reagents and Primers. A guide for beginners in the art of brewing potions. Thank you, Harry. You don't know what this opportunity means to me, he said sincerely, a tear forming in one eye. He had hope. Oh, I think I do. I will help wherever I can, but potions was never my strong suit. I do have 7 years of education on the subject though, so I won't be useless, Harry said. But do me a favor and keep the book for later. If Fury thought I was distracting you, he'd have my head. Of course, Harry, Bruce said, as he opened the book and started reading. Once we see anything happen, I'll stop reading. At this point, we're just waiting anyway. He moved off to his workstation. What about me? Tony asked with a cross look. I was going to get him to come work for me. Who says he can't do both? What he does with his time is up to him. I'm not his boss, Harry said. Actually, Harry, you kind of just hired me, Bruce said from his corner, eyes not leaving the text. Oh, I didn't realize. I was looking for a partner, not an employee, Harry said. Well, in that case, he turned back to Stark. First come, first served. We can discuss how much you are willing to pay to rent him from me. On second thought, partnership sounds better to me suddenly, Bruce said. Geez, make up your mind, Harry said. See, he's his own boss. Speak to him. As for what you can do, would you be interested in building machines that, once Bruce has figured it out, can mass-produce potions? Harry then asked. I don't see why not, Tony said, considering it. What about working on a way to proof devices from magic? I also had an idea about using magic to enchant devices to produce cheap energy. What about instant communications without any delays, no matter the distances? Would those be things you would be interested in? Harry asked. Okay, now we're talking. Stark said, this could be the conversation that leads to an end in world hunger, illness, and power shortages. You're willing for partnership. I've got a suspicion that we could be bitter enemies or the best of friends. Economically speaking, of course. Just don't put massive markups on things. I'm interested in helping people, like I said. Not making money, Harry warned. Yeah, not everything I do is about making money, you know, Tony said. I know, Tony. You're actually a good person, but until you stop acting like an arrogant ass, I'll be knocking you down for your efforts, Harry said sincerely. Did I ever tell you I can construct a self-sustained pocket dimension, or that I know a spell that could remove the shrapnel from your chest right now, painlessly, or that there is a potion that can regrow bones in the human body overnight, even if they were completely removed? Harry asked with a new look in his eyes. Tony's eyes bulged. No, I don't believe you did, he deadpanned. Can you do that now, the shrapnel I mean? He asked with a little hope. I suppose I could, but I would suggest you wait until I can brew a potion or two. There's a small chance it could cause internal bleeding as the shrapnel is no longer there. I'd rather have a blood-replenishing potion and some essence of Didony at the ready, and we'd probably want to take the arc reactor out before the potions take effect. Not doing that would hurt like hell, Harry informed him. Tony blanched. Yeah, let's rather just leave it for another time, he said as he rubbed his chest. One last item for you. I have a whole field of study in magic that I could use both you and Bruce for. Have you ever heard of magical runes? Harry asked, thinking of Hermione's research. And stories, is a suppose. You mean that's real too? Tony asked in wonder. My friend was conducting research with runes. She called their workings the circuitry of the magical world. I know nothing about the concept and have only a working knowledge of ancient runes that she taught me. I'm not sure, but I think she was trying to build a magical calculator or a way to give access to magic to the non-magical, Harry said. Her dying wish was for me to take her research and finish it, Harry said sadly. If she was taking the first steps to making the world's first magic computer. Tony's brain started working overtime. Do you have her research? Tony, show some respect, can't you see he's in pain? Bruce suddenly got up. He had heard the tone in Harry's voice. Relax, Bruce. He's just excited. The idea of a whole new form computing probably has him all revved up. Tony here loves a challenge, Harry said with a wry smile. And yes, I have her research, but that can wait for later. Oh, come on, you gave Bruce a book. Don't you have some books on understanding runes or something? Tony pleaded. That had worked better than he had thought. He pretended to think about it before recovering a book from his pocket again. Giving the book to Tony, he said sincerely, don't lose or damage this, and don't try any rune words or clusters you think might work. It takes 3 years of study to know how to not make a rune word explode in your face. If you accidentally create a loop, it could build exponentially and take down the helicarrier, Harry said seriously. I suppose I could make sure he stays out of trouble, Bruce said. Oh, come on, it's no fun if there's no chance of it exploding in your face. Tony whined. Buck up, old man, Harry said as he pointed at the table and cancelled the invisibility on the butterbeer. Your butterbeer isn't going to drink itself. Harry smiled as he left the lab. As he left, he heard Bruce ask Tony if he could have a taste, and Tony's response that it was his and that he needed it for his arc reactor. It seemed they were getting along better already. One more common thread to pull them all together. Time to go speak to Thor. He found him on the command deck, staring out into the night. Prince Thor, if I may intrude on your evening, Harry asked respectfully. Please do. All this waiting bores me. I have no patience for it. I'd rather be out there doing something, he said, indicating out into the world. If you wish, I can entertain you for an hour or two. There's much I would like to show you, Harry said. I don't see why not. Anything is better than just waiting here, Thor said. As they made it out of the command deck, Harry made eye contact with Fury and nodded slightly. Fury just looked at him as he went. Do you mind if we invited Captain Rogers to come with us? He is alone in this world much like myself, and he will like what we are about to do, Harry asked. Feel free to, I have no qualms with the captain, Thor said. They asked around and were directed to a training room where Natasha and Steve were busy sparring. They watched as Steve and Natasha held the upper hand on multiple occasions, until finally Natasha got Steve with a dirty trick and got him to submit. You fight too dirty, Steve said with a smile as he shook the arm she had manipulated for the submission. You don't fight dirty enough, she replied. She then looked up and noticed Harry. Smirking, she asked, Do you think you can handle me? Harry looked up at Thor. Do you mind? This will only take a minute. Go ahead, but watch out. She looks poisonous. Thor laughed. That's fine, I'm immune, Harry said as he put his heavy armor in storage with a flick of a finger. That's a neat trick. Can you do that with all your clothes? Natasha asked as they squared off. I can do it with any clothes. I don't even need to be the one wearing them, Harry replied with a smirk. Kinky, she replied as she lunged at him. She was very quick, but Harry's reflexes saved him as he blocked the jab. You don't know half of it, he said as he returned a punch, aimed at her face, which she dodged, grabbing his arm and trying to twist it with her movement. Had Harry not done combat training, it might have worked on him. He stepped forward and used his other arm to grab her waist. As she turned, he put one foot behind hers and gently dipped her. When he brought her back up, she aimed an elbow for his throat, which he also caught handily, turning her as if twirling in the same dance before jumping away. He knew he was taking advantage of her taking things slowly, getting used to how he moved. But he couldn't help himself. He knew if she went all out, he'd not stand a chance. It seemed like she was enjoying the dance. Time to spice things up. He watched her eyes, reading any intention he could from her without actually entering her mind. When she punched, so did he. When she kicked, so did he. She started going faster and faster until it was all Harry could do to keep up. And then, she faked a kick. When she connected with his leg, however, she twisted her leg around his, gripped his foot in her hands, and twisted it. He fell to the floor and she locked his leg in a submission hold while putting stress on his spine. He tapped out, conceding defeat. She helped him up and he smiled at her. You are as beautiful as you are deadly, Natalie, my dear. You're no slouch yourself, but you need to stop telegraphing your attacks. You'd be able to recover faster and then you'd have been the one on top of me. She smiled at him. Oh, be still, my aching heart. Harry exclaimed theatrically. Want to go for another round? She asked him.
I'm afraid I came for Steve. I have an interesting excursion plan for Thor, him and myself,
Harry said. Don't be a stranger, Natasha said. Any more than I already am. Impossible, he said as he walked out followed by Steve and Thor. Okay, we need to be alone for this next part. He led them around the command deck. He cast a privacy ward, then conjured a carpet on the floor. He switched it with one of the ones he had in the artifacts room. He had them get on the reasonably sized carpet, and sat down. As they did, there was a sense of movement, and the helicarrier seemed to fall away below them. Harry conjured some torches that floated around them for light, and a small table that he placed a bottle on. Some cushions appeared, and then a shield against the wind.
Okay,
So the mood is set, Harry said. We are alone and there is nobody to hear us. We're going to get to know each other with the help of two things. The first being this, he pointed at the alcohol, and the other being this. He conjured a bowl and switched it with his pensieve. I'll even show you how they both work. He conjured 3 tumblers, and filled them half up with the fire whiskey. Harry, are you sure this is a good idea? We're supposed to be ready at any moment, Steve asked. He was still looking around him in wonder. He was sitting on a flying carpet, about to have a drink under the moonlight. I thought you trusted me. They know I'm busy with something and they have a way to get in contact, Harry said. As for the alcohol, I don't think any of us has a problem with that. I could do with a drink, although I hope you are going to explain in further detail why we are doing it here, Thor asked. First we drink. He picked up his glass and said, to the battles we have yet to face and overcome. Cheers, Steve said. To the battles, Thor boomed. They all drank. Steve coughed and there was a gout of fire. He had never been much of a drinker and this stuff was strong. Harry loved the look in his eyes at the fire. Thor didn't cough. He just looked at the glass like it contained a treasure. This is fine drink. Where did you come by it, sorcerer? Please, could you call me Harry? Harry asked. Of course, Harry, Thor said. Thanks. The drink comes from my home, so stocks are limited, Harry said. It's a shame. I would have loved to take my father a bottle of this. He'd see it as a wonderful gift, though honesty does compel me to admit I would be tempted to keep it for myself, Thor said. I might be persuaded to part with a bottle or two. Harry said slyly, I said stocks were limited, not that they were limited to a little. This is really good, Harry, thank you, Steve said, realizing this was something Harry probably held dear. It's not a problem, Steve, Harry responded. Anyway, on to the big event. Harry put a finger to his head and pulled it away with a look of concentration. A strand of memory attached to his finger. Harry dropped it in the bowl and said, Okay, I want each of you to put a finger in the bowl. They both did it without question, and Harry joined them. This is my first Quidditch game. Thor and Steve were looking around, seeing a young Harry speak to his teammates and flushing right before taking off and flying into the sky. His companions were shocked and amazed by some of the things they were seeing. By the time the memory ended, his companions had speculative looks. You wish for us to bond by sharing our experiences? Thor asked. That is correct, Prince Thor. We have no bonds, no reference to what we can do for one another. Our actions will gain us the respect of our companions over time, but that is not a luxury we have, Harry confirmed and explained. I see your point, Harry, and this is an amazing opportunity. I just wish the rest of the team could be here, Steve said. It's not that simple. We are the only ones that can share this time as all the others have jobs to do. And Prince Thor here has his own priorities which he has every right to have, Harry said quickly, before Thor could interrupt. He has duty, a love for his brother he must abide by, and a friend under mind control he wishes to save. I'm not going to try and change his mind or duty. I just want us to know each other. Weaknesses, strength, passions, goals. In those we will find our common ground. When they both nodded, Harry winked. They also don't have our tolerance for good alcohol. They both laughed as Harry poured another drink. Steve, if you would please concentrate on something you wish to share. Steve nodded and thought, and then he said, I'm ready. Harry touched his finger to Steve's head and pulled the memory out. He put it in the bowl and they followed the same procedure. Seeing his fight with the Red Skull and when he had to put the plane in the water. He was commentating as the memory went. When the memory was over, he just sat there saddened by the memory of his missed chance with a lovely young lady. It is a shame that war so rips the lives of people apart. You have a lot of heart, friend Steve. To do what you did took courage and dedication, Thor intoned. Thank you, Prince Thor, Steve said. You may both call me Thor. It is customary here. If we are to be a team, let us not be divided by ranks or circumstance of birth. Thor said. Thank you, Thor, Harry said. Thor went next, and they saw his battle on Jotunheim. He shared his personal shame and the reason for his banishment to Earth. And so on it went. The more they talked and shared and drank, the more they started seeing each other's value. And the more they drank, the more entertaining the memories became, until they were laughing at something the twins had done, or Loki's propensity to get Thor into trouble and the good humor he took it with. By the time they had to go back to the helicarrier, they were all quite drunk. Steve stumbled as he got up and shook his head. Harry, am I drunk? He asked incredulously. You've been drunk for an hour, Steve. Didn't you notice? Harry asked, also not steady on his feet. But I thought that was impossible. He stumbled again and went to go sit against the wall of the command deck they had landed next to. Thor, meanwhile, was a little steadier on his feet, but he was also visibly swaying. Normally that might be true, but wizarding whiskey is made for wizards. We can drink enough to kill 5 normal people and go to work the next day. One of the perks, Harry exclaimed happily. Well, Asgardians can drink enough ale to kill 10 humans, Thor said with a victorious smile. You win. I can't compete with that, Harry said. Are you guys ready to sober up? He asked. Do we need to go swim in the Arctic or something? Because if that's so, I'd rather just stay drunk. It's not such a bad feeling. I kind of like it, Steve said. Nah, it's a spell. Hold on. Harry concentrated for a second and then ice-cold water fell on them. I thought you said we didn't need to go swimming, Steve said, just slightly upset. Thor was just laughing. I need to concentrate. This time he got it right and the alcohol immediately left their systems. Wow, that's cold, Steve suddenly said, dead sober. Sorry about that. In my own defense, you brought up the Arctic water, Harry said. Don't blame friend Steve for your miscasting of a spell. He's not the wizard here, Thor rebuked. Yeah, okay, you're right. Sorry, Steve. It was all my fault. I thought of Arctic water while casting a spell, he said with good humor. Steve just laughed. We must do that again sometime. It was fun. Why, Captain America, I never thought I'd see the day that you advocate the use of alcohol. Harry joked again. He cast a quick drying charm on all 3 of them. When you can sober right up, it's hardly the same thing, Steve said back. And, wow, there really is a spell for just about anything, isn't there? Pretty much, which is why there was law enforcement for wizards. When there's a spell for anything, people inevitably do bad things with them. Harry responded, You made a fine officer, Harry. It's just unfortunate that the wrong people noticed, Thor said. He had really warmed up to the wizard. After they had convinced Harry to show them some of his battles, so they could measure his skills, they were amazed at the sheer abundance of spells he could have in the air at any given time. How is it that you could cast so many spells without a focus, when your opponents used wands and they are so slow? Thor asked. It's a gift. I wasn't born with it, but somewhere along the line I earned it. It used to be a wand. It was called the Elder Wand. One day it fused with my being. Now instead of owning the most powerful wand in existence, I am one, Harry explained. Those kinds of things don't happen often, do they? Steve asked. With me they happen all the time. It's a curse, or a blessing. I don't know anymore, Harry answered solemnly. How many times have you been quickened thusly, Harry? Thor asked suddenly, having a suspicion that it had not just been the once. A total of 3 times actually, 4 if you count the scar. Harry had told them the story of the Horcrux. What were the other 2? Steve asked. My cloak of invisibility did the same thing. Harry made himself invisible, and then visible again. A useful skill that one, more often than not, used for mischief, I presume? Thor smiled. Maybe once or twice, Harry said noncommittally. And the last one? Steve asked. Keep this one to yourself, okay? Harry looked at Thor and Steve, who both nodded. I can summon and communicate with the spirits of the dead. Really? Steve asked. Necromancy, Thor exclaimed, suddenly wary. It is a forbidden art. Why do you have such a skill? Harry told them the story of the Deathly Hallows, leaving out the part about the Master of Death. So you see it cannot be forbidden if Death himself allowed its use. Herself, Thor interrupted. On Asgard, Death is always referred to as female. Who would I be to argue with those far wiser than myself? Harry replied humbly. Anyway, it's a skill I don't like using. I heard that the dead feel pain after being summoned for too long. That is best, I think. A skill you may use, but sparingly, is the course of a wise man in this regard, Thor said. That's too bad. I'd have loved to say goodbye to a couple of my old friends. Steve said sadly. Don't worry, Steve. We can still get you in contact with them. We just need to wait for the veil between the living and the dead to be at its thinnest on Halloween, and then their discomfort will be minimized. I doubt they'd mind waiting that long, Harry said. Turning to Thor, he asked, Do you think that will be okay? I think that by respecting them and treating them kindly, you show that you have a good heart. Thor said non-committally. I'm afraid our evening has come to an end. I need to get some rest. I have expended a lot of energy today, Harry said. They thanked Harry again for an enlightening, fun evening and bid him good night. Harry made his way to the command deck and found Fury there. When he approached, Fury indicated that they go to his office, but not before speaking to Maria. Hill, we're going to have a meeting. You know how to contact me. Maria Hill, Fury's second in command, nodded. Harry noticed that this normally beautiful woman looked very tired, but resigned. He walked over, took her hand and said, Thank you for working so hard. Then he whispered, Drink this in private, it will give you a couple of hours of extra energy, leaving a pepper-up potion in her hand. She smiled at him and said, Thank you, Agent Potter. As they walked, Fury asked, You don't happen to have any more of those, do you? Yes, sir. Pepper-up potions are easier to make in large quantities, so I've got about 19 more vials, Harry replied. Fury just held his hand out. It was easy to forget that this man was human sometimes. Harry handed him a vial. Fury didn't even wait till he was back at his office. He just uncorked it and downed it. One agent's eyes looked like they were going to pop out of his head at seeing steam shoot out of Fury's ears. Fury ignored him. Nobody would believe him anyway. Or they'd start thinking he's a machine. Either way works. When he reached his office, Coulson was sitting in a chair with his eyes closed. Fury just looked, and him and then Harry. Harry knew what to do. Soon Coulson was up, and seemingly recovered. We don't all have the luxury of sleep at this stage. We need a debriefing. Fury took out his badge and used his activation phrase, Where secrets dwell in the light, and was ported away. Coulson took out his and said his activation phrase, No marauder without his pack. Harry suspected Coulson set that activation phrase for him. Harry just apparated to the Marauders Den. He didn't need an activation phrase, but he still thought it was cool. They used words they would not normally use together, or in a sentence. Agent Potter, report, Fury said, as soon as he arrived. They were sitting at the coffee table, so Harry started his report as he started making coffee at the newly installed machine. It was a big monstrosity, and it had taken work, but Harry had finally gotten it to work. I've done as requested. Steve knows my whole story, more than even ye emphasis on details that he would appreciate to know and about my personal interactions and problems with past superiors. He is much like myself in that he appreciates honesty, so Stark was indeed patched into your systems. I don't know how much he's uncovered, but I suspect he'll come across Phase 2 by tomorrow. Try to have Steve there for the discovery. I'll make sure he understands beforehand that you sometimes take orders you don't like. In the meanwhile, I've asked Steve to get to know Romanoff. He understands teamwork, and last I checked, they were making good progress. Hopefully the work I put in with him and Stark will have them finding some common ground. Harry took them their coffees. And Banner? Fury asked. When I met him, I think he thought I was just an oddity. Since our discussion this afternoon, he's wholeheartedly taken to the concept of becoming a master brewer. I suspect he'll want to join me as soon as this is over. Once I show him his rooms, I think he'll elect to stay with me. We'll need land that I can secure and make unplottable for our planned expansion of the greenhouses. I'll need to show him how to do everything from seedlings to harvesting before we start contracting hired help for upkeep. I don't think he'd enjoy working in the fields. Besides that, he's as focused on a future working with me as I imagine I can make him. What about Stark? Did you struggle to get him to see reason? In the beginning, he scoffed at the idea of magic. I think the real turning point was when I started quoting some of Hermione's findings, when we discovered that his arc reactor works a lot like magic, We even discovered that the arc reactor can extract energy from magic that has reached entropy. After that, I told him about a couple of projects that I have eyes on for the long run, and mentioned the possibility of him working with Banner on a couple of them, and he was on board. I wouldn't be surprised if he's planning on his future kids marrying with Bruce's. He's got a real brawner for Banner. Harry chuckled. Phil just smirked and said, he wants to spend time with Banner as he sees him as an intellectual equal. How did it go with Thor? Fury said, ignoring the witticisms. I decided to take Steve with us. Here he smiled at Coulson. We took one of my carpets up and shared drink and memories. Come on! I thought you said you didn't like them! Coulson exclaimed. I never said that. I said they were illegal in Europe, and that I preferred brooms. Anyway, he said, ignoring Coulson's cold gaze, we were able to see eye to eye once I expressed my understanding of his duties and desire to save a friend. He really liked the fire whiskey. I really should start working out its enchantments soon. Between you guys using it as an emotional surrogate and my needing to use it to make my teammates happy, it won't last the year. Maybe I'll make getting the formula right part of Banner's potions education. If I can't figure it out, I'm sure he can. Between him and my challenge to Stark to start making magic-resistant equipment, we're going to start seeing some wonders coming out of Potter Innovations. You made a company? Fury asked, worried. Not yet. I'm thinking that if I don't though, I won't be able to put my foot down when Stark starts going overboard with our shared research. I don't want the discoveries we make to be under the control of his shareholders either. That's actually a good idea. I'll get a team started registering everything under a dummy company, so nobody can track it back to you just yet. Fury said with an approving nod. To get back to Thor though, I think it will be a good idea if you quietly speak to him and tell him very specifically that Loki will be allowed to go back with him. He won't trust us fully until you do. As for our meeting tonight, taking Steve with us was a good idea. I can see Thor allowing him to be team leader after we viewed a couple of memories of him in battle with the commandos. Thor is a prince and a warrior, not a soldier. He's not used to taking orders, but he realized that Steve is a leader and has the right head and experience for it. What about Romanoff? You haven't said anything about her, Fury asked. Well, the thing is, we've not really had the opportunity. I'm struggling to get a read on her as well. Besides her worry for Barton, I know next to nothing about her. I don't know what makes her tick, Harry said. Sir, if I may, Coulson asked. Go ahead, Fury said. Natasha is complicated. She was an assassin working for the KGB. There was an order out for her termination, and Barton went to put a toe tag on her. To hear him tell it, she was being used by her government. When he found that out, he asked for permission to bring her into the fold. Before she came in, she took her time with her handlers. It wasn't pretty. Apparently they were using her as a party favor for statesmen and government officials in the know when she wasn't on missions. Whatever they had on her, I think she found out that they had already acted on the intel. She was not in a good place. A lot like you, there is no trust. Even after years of working for us, we don't know everything, and she's always got her head on a swivel. Coulson finished sadly. Harry was just sitting there, his gaze a million miles away. He was remembering the things Death Eaters would do when they found a pretty plaything. They'd hold her family hostage and force her to do depraved things to save their lives, until they had their fun and killed the family anyway, only to leave her alive so she could suffer. Most of those young ladies and sometimes boys did not survive the night, by their own hands. Harry's eyes did not flash this time. They started to glow. Then the room started to shake. Coulson and Fury both jumped up and started to yell at Harry to calm down, but he could not hear them. The sound of blood rushing through his ears was far too loud and his anger far too much. He saw a little red-headed girl on the floor below a statue. He saw Hermione's tortured and defiled body. He saw countless dead children in a mass grave. He saw red. Suddenly he looked up, a strange smile on his face, and then he disappeared. Fury and Coulson were worried. They knew some of Harry's past and always had a small fear that some of that past would come back to bite them. For that reason, they decided to come check the Marauders Den every hour, just in case Harry came back. They needn't have worried.